Look! Up in the director's chair! Is it Richard Donner? Is it Zack Snyder? No! It's James Gunn's Superman 2025! That's right. Greetings, fellow true believers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive. I think you meant superfans.
What is true believers?
No, true believers, it's Stan Lee. It's Marvel.
It's true. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I equated true believers to just be superheroes in general. My bad.
I mean, it can be. I'm just saying, if you want to be a little bit more on brand, like DC superfans might be a little bit, a little more.
Well, you know what? This movie very much feels like Silver Age, like Stan Lee, Steve Ditko material. So I'll let it slide. All right. Okay, folks. So we are here to talk Superman 2025. Dragon, I think I have a pull quote for you that kind of just sums up my thoughts on this movie at large. I have no idea how you feel about this movie. We have not discussed it at all. For all I know, this could be a super divisive podcast. I genuinely don't know. But my pull quote for this movie is Superman 2025 is everything that Zack Snyder's Superman could never be. James Gunn has created a cosmic shift in the superhero genre. And I'll leave it at that, Dragon. I'll leave it at that as far as my thoughts.
Okay.
So what do you think?
All right, so post James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, we had the prospect of fleshing out James Gunn's version of the DC universe. And the prospect of that was very interesting. We were building momentum with Peacemaker and Creature Commandos, and he's taken on Superman. Superman, the flagship character of DC alongside Batman. But the fact that he's tackling Superman of all characters, the first non under the radar, kind of project for James Gunn as far as comic book films go. Mm-hmm. He thrives in the cut of under the radar because there's not a lot of expectation, gives him a lot of room to play with. So this was a first for him, and there's a lot of exciting potential of a Superman that's very heavily inspired by All-Star Superman, one of the all-time great Superman stories, one of the most recent classic by comparison. And more, I think it was the reason James Gunn leaned into All-Star Superman, the reason I thought it was a really good idea is that, Morrison's Superman, loves, thrives and loves the Silver Age and kind of the weird sci-fi stuff, which goes hand in hand with what James Gunn's all about. He's all about embracing the weird and kind of the deep lore of the DCU. So that's kind of what I went in with. So I came out of it with the movie. It absolutely met my expectations. I was expecting basically James Gunn kind of leaning into the all-star Superman Morrison of it all. I thought this was a great movie. It's let's be honest, okay, it's not replacing Donner's Superman anytime soon. And no, James Gunn's smart enough to know that's not on the table.
It's replacing Zack Snyder's Superman, and it does a good job of that.
Sure. But you see what I mean? I'm saying, but you can kind of tell there's a lot of reverence for Donner's Superman, but it's not like slavish. Yeah. It's not a slavish reverence that kind of cuts the movie down like we saw Superman Returns. So it's just the right balance.
Of course, yeah.
So he's using Superman. The main takeaway of this movie is that he's using Superman to lay the foundation. Not that he didn't do it already with Creature Commandos, I know, but I'm just saying on the big screen for kind of everybody to see. For kind of a general audience, because Creature Commandos is very, very R-rated. He's using Superman to lay the foundation for the James Gunn DC universe, being most appropriately the first hero in comic bookdom, the first DC hero, Superman. And you gotta give it up for him. It's a huge uphill battle he had with this movie because not only is he tackling Superman the flagship character, which he's never done before. There were a lot of people rooting for this to fail or having doubts about this again, mostly because the Snyder camp is very overpowering, especially since they got the big win with the Snyder Cut being released. There's a lot of big Snyder energy out there. Let's call it that. So the point being, that and along with the marketing kind of hurt in places. That's the knock I gotta give against the movies, that the marketing was rough for this. Not that it was bad, but I'm just saying that's where like everyone was like picking apart, because it's just all the pressure that James Gunn was under with this movie. You know, it was a lot. He had a lot. It was an uphill battle, like, you know, within in kind of like all the expectation
I
around
mean, I
versus like,
personally thought the trailers for this were pretty consistently really good throughout.
no. I'm with you, T. I'm just saying that everyone who was looking for reasons to not like the movie, they were armed with fodder from the trailer. So I think that's kind of like, you know, James Gunn couldn't catch a break with everyone like always dogging on over the littlest things in the trailers. That's what I mean. You know, like,
Uh-huh.
anyway. But yeah. So at the end of the day, this is a very different Superman than people are used to. You know, he's stressing believability, the believability of Superman and the DC universe. And I want to emphasize, not realism, not grounded. Nolan did that already. We're not doing that again here. This is
Mhm.
you know, it's just believabilities, and you can put yourself in Superman's shoes. It's like, you know, like the heart of the piece. It's about the heart of the piece and finding the humanity in kind of this update on Superman, which honestly is kind of like some of the great Superman stuff we've been getting lately. Has been kind of like kind of an update on Superman. Like, in the biggest comparison I have for this movie is that it's kind of like All Star Superman crossed with My Adventures with Superman. That's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah,
Which
and
is it?
this series definitely makes me go back, and I'm about halfway through season 2 of My Adventures of Superman. Finally,
Now I will say this. Okay, I'm going to say this. I do like the movie. I can't say it's better than My Adventures with Superman. I can tell it wants to be that, and I think it's very close to being that in terms of quality, in terms of like measuring up to that. Because I just feel like there's something. This movie has some elements that My Adventures Superman doesn't have. My Adventures Superman, I think, is a little more. I think it maybe is stronger in the writing than this movie is, and that's not like a criticism. I'm just saying it has the advantage of being a television show and being able to weave it through a number of episodes. So it's that kind of thing, you know.
Mhm.
But the point being, this shakes things up. It's making Superman cool again for the kids, which I appreciate, and it's the fact that we need these kind of flavors of Superman. All I wanted from this movie is to see a very Silver Age yet in the modern era kind of Superman like brought on screen. That's what I wanted to see. I want to see something that's going to lean into kind of like the fun of the lore of Superman and just kind of put it on screen a way we haven't seen before, because we know like Donner Superman's ingrained in the culture. We know what that is. We know that Superman like the back of our hand. But we don't know like all the weird stuff with Superman in the public consciousness. The you know, the average Joes don't know. I just like that we kind of celebrated Superman in a way that, you know, it feels like, you know, it kind of lured people to, you know what, let's trick people into thinking it's 1978 again. Let's give them to go to the movies. Let's show them a good time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this has definitely been the biggest like cultural event of the year so far. Just as far as like kind of like a shared interest in it. I will say it's kind of interesting because this is absolutely not the same level of divisiveness as The Last Jedi was, but I had kind of a similar reaction to The Last Jedi as far as like, or experience as far as like, and I'm sorry, people in the comments. We have a really robust comment section. If y'all don't know, I'm a big lover of The Last Jedi. It might be my second favorite Star Wars movie ever, second or third favorite. I think it's better than Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry. There's just a lot of stuff in that movie I love. I know that's a hot take. I didn't think it'd be a hot take walking out of the movie theater, though. Walking out of the movie theater, I was like, that was everything I've ever wanted a Star Wars movie to be. Just like walking out of this movie, I was like, that was everything I ever wanted a Superman movie to be. And Dragon, the consensus is pretty strong that, you know, most people love this. Not everyone does, though.
No,
Jeremy Johns gave it a good time if you're drunk. Dan Merle doesn't like it that much. You know, there's a few like really reputable people that like this isn't a perfect like 10 out of 10 across the board. So it's a
no.
weird experience. Like having something that and of course I'm pretty biased when it comes to James Gunn. I think James Gunn at this point is probably my all-time favorite director when it comes to superhero movies in particular. I'm not saying I'm not saying his movies across the board are better than something like, you know, like the original Superman or The Dark Knight. Like I don't think anything he's directed has been as much of a masterpiece as something like The Dark Knight, but he's consistent though. He's very consistent. Anyway,
He is very consistent. I will say this, okay? Like I like the movie. When I walked out of the movie, I had a thing where, I mean, look, I really appreciate that we were able to get a Superman movie like this. And honestly, the big takeaway, I know I keep saying that so much. I'm sorry about that, folks. Let's just say, I think it's important that we stress, like, this is maybe to the movie's detriment, but also to the movie's benefit. Again, it's more foundational. It's the building of a universe that's really setting like an interesting status quo, and like we've never been able to jump full on. We always keep doing the origin, or we keep doing like a kind of a shoddy
well,
reintroduction.
I definitely have stuff to say about the structure of this movie. I feel like
Yeah.
this movie goes full Star Wars with just jumping, like throwing us into the middle of the story. But I really respect that for me personally.
Well, sure. What I'm getting at is that Superman. The curse of Superman has always been like traditionally we just basically we go back to the well with like we got to do the origin story, or we're kind of like we're trying to like reintroduce him, but it's like, well, where to go for 5 years, or it's like he's playing second fiddle to Batman in his own sequel. So like, these are kind of the problems that Superman has had cinematically, and here it's like, again, the movie's benefit detriment. It's like, hey, this is a Superman movie where, again, don't get me wrong, he is the focus of the story, and that's important. But also, it's like we're doing a lot of great groundwork building for for what James Gunn's like take on DC has been, and just kind of is with Superman as kind of like the eyes in kind of touchstone for that, like the optimistic view of kind of a DC universe that's very similar to our world.
Sure, sure.
Minus the giant fire breathing kaiju's, but you get
And
the
the
idea.
internet troll monkeys.
Well, we'll get there, Tika. We'll get to the monkeys.
All right. Okay, folks, we got a really robust comment section. I apologize if I don't read every single comment. I think if I did that, we'd be here for like 3 hours, but I'll try and get to the essential ones. Little Blue says, I give Superman 9 out of 10 stars. I like the restraint, Eli. I like the restraint. You're like Hank Hill giving the Uber driver 4 stars because there's always room for improvement. Let's see. Kogia says, I had so many doubts and concerns for the 2025 Superman film. I thought it could have ended up being the worst Superman film, but I feel happy to be won over and proven wrong. Look at that, Kogias. You are in the majority. How does it feel, sir?
Oh, so by the way, so the other thing I was going to say is that I think while this is good, I don't think it's tops James Gunn's other work. I don't think it tops the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm going to say that.
I actually did an Instagram ranking of all the James Gunn Superman movie or superhero movies.
Always with the rankings.
I know. Honestly, I have the original Guardians of the Galaxy. This might shock you, but for me, it's number 5 out of 5. And just because I think Ronan is his weakest villain, and I think that was the movie where James Gunn was the most constrained by like, okay, this has to be an MCU thing. We have to tie it into Thanos. We have to tie it into the Infinity Stones. Like James Gunn, like he had a lot of breathing room in that movie, but he was still kind of tied down by the studio system. Anyway, this movie is my second favorite James Gunn superhero movie after Guardians Volume 3, which is my number 1.
Okay.
All right. Okay, going through here. Colby, I'm not gonna read your Grace Randolph comment, but I appreciate the joke. It's too much of an in joke. Okay, let's see. John Kelly, we have John Kelly, the Devourer of Worlds, said Lex Luthor did not like what Dragon was saying about Superman. Put him in a pocket universe prison briefly. Oh, I think that's because you cut out briefly, Dragon.
Wait, I did?
Yeah, you did for like 5 seconds. It's fine. We got the gist of what you were saying.
Oh man.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Let's see. John Kelly says this movie watches like general audiences didn't watch Creature Commandos, and despite how much I like that show, rightfully so. Yeah, I agree. If you watch Creature Commandos, you know who Rick Flag Sr. is, and it's cool to see him in live action in this movie. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. He doesn't have that big of a role, but it's cool to see his presence here.
He's going to have a bigger role in Peacemaker season 2, kids.
I'm sure he will, yeah. Let's see. I love this comment. John Kelling says, it was really sweet of Gunn to give the Snyder Bros a bone and give them a shout out via the monkey internet trolls. Really cool of him. I would love it if that was actually a direct shout out to the Snyder Bros, dude. I don't know if that's exactly what James Gunn was thinking, but I wouldn't put it past
I don't
him.
know if someone made. I don't know if someone like doctored this and like put it up as like a meme or something. But there was this. There might have been a still from the movie where it was like on one of the many screens, like if you freeze framed it, it said like "New Superman sucks, Man of Steel rules" or something.
Oh
like
my
that.
god!
It's like it might be like a blink and you miss it kind of like, I don't know if it was like because there's so much going on. Maybe it was like an Easter egg that people either got or someone just like doctored to kind of make a point, make a gag. So I can't tell you for sure until I can like watch until I can stream the movie.
All right. We have John Kelling and Keeper Colby agreeing with me about The Last Jedi. Last Jedi Truthers Unite. Indeed. Love to see it. Love to see it. I'm not saying Last Jedi is a perfect movie. Like, don't get me wrong. The Canto Bight stuff is, by and large, pretty bullshit.
Also, Holdo.
I don't mind Holdo as much.
You just like it because she dies.
No, I like her because of the actress, Dragon, because of Laura Dern. Hello.
Yes, Laura Dern with purple hair. That's about it.
Dragon, it's hard for me to hate that woman, all right? I'm sorry. That's how much of a Jurassic Park apologist I am.
Oh, God.
Okay, John Kelly, yeah, we'll get into the opening of the movie.
Eventually.
Colby says those monkeys are real. I take care of them. Yeah, that's funny. Little Blue says, even though I give it a 9 out of 10, it's still a heck of a Superman film. Yeah, indeed. I don't think I would give it a perfect 10 either, but I love everything it represents about Superman. I love the character. Yeah, I know. Dragon has pointed this out many times, Little Blue. I don't know if you're just echoing him or if it's your own opinion, but Dragon has pointed this out many times.
Oh, trap. It's a rescue.
Rescue. That would have been perfect. Honestly, you could have given Holdo's entire character arc to Admiral Akbar. Like, how cool would that have been?
Yeah, it would have been great.
To like actually give Admiral Akbar like a significant role. Anyways, so yeah, really quick, just to before we dive into it, I just want to kind of put up like, I don't think this is a perfect movie. I definitely think that James Gunn, like, he stretches himself a little thin when it comes to the plot. I think the few bits of Clark Kent that we do get between the opening stuff in the newsroom and especially the stuff in Smallville is wonderful. I really hope that in the sequel we get more Clark Kent. I acknowledge that we did not get enough Clark Kent in this movie, and that is a little bit of an issue. That being said, Dragon, the reason I love this movie as much as I do, and the reason why I walked out just thinking like cosmic shift, is I didn't grow up with the Donner Superman movies, okay? So they've never really been like that nostalgic for me. But like, it's so refreshing. Like, I think that this Superman is basically like a real world version of what Donner Superman was. And for me, I honestly like, I don't know. It's just the way that they did the optimism of him, the punk rock of it all. Like, okay, let's dive into it. I've obviously got a lot to say here. Okay, Dragon, I fucking adore the way this movie opens. I really do. What?
I love the text.
Yes, okay, Dragon, I honestly think you might be the only person who's going to really vibe with me on the same level with this. I think the text throughout the movie, like the subtitles and everything, are so satisfying with how big the font is and how much they pop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, the text is great. I love that kind of like the time reference, like the 3 centuries ago, 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 days ago. And then the building music, like
3 minutes ago.
Dragon, that was perfect. I mean, James Gunn, like, he obviously knows how to open a superhero movie. I think that's one of his biggest strengths. And this is just, I mean, this is up there, man. It's so good. I think we all pretty much knew that it was going to start with the, with the Superman basically being thrown into the Arctic like Aladdin in the third act of that movie, like. Right. I think we all knew it was going to start that way, but just seeing the text and how it starts off, and like, I love the fact that I don't think we need to see the actual stuff leading up to this movie. I think we get just enough context. We obviously know the character. We obviously know the backstory. And we'll talk about the plot, but I really like the fact that in the plot itself, Superman is dealing with something that he's already done. Like, he can't take it back. Like I like that we don't spend a whole act building up the conflict that he gets involved in. Like, I like that that's already something that he's dealing with when the movie starts, and the fact that the opening sequence, well, the opening action scene, I should say, is kind of like a direct result of that choice. It throws you into the middle of the conflict. It throws you into the middle of, like, you know, Superman is a beloved public figure, but there is this kind of lingering doubt about him. The fact that this bad guy showing up seemingly directly because Superman, like, got involved in this conflict. Anything to say about all that, Dragon?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The setup.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. I'm going to get to your get to the kind of political consequence that you're getting at in just one sec. I want to lean on the threes for a second here. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta be honest. The emphasis on three with all this, I have a theory. I really think that because we emphasize the whole the era, the age of gods and monsters, is what he says right from the outset. And of course, we know the first chapter of his plan is called Gods and Monsters. He at least has three of them. So I really think that James Gunn is he's going to be out after three kind of like phases or chapters or what have you. I think that's what his plan is, and that's what he's sticking to based on this. Like, he's opening really strongly on three. I don't think he's going to stick around after it reaches chapter 3.
So basically, he knows better than the MCU to essentially be like, okay, like, we're done here. We did what we set up to do. And
I really think he's going to be out after 3, which look at what he did with Guardians, out after 3. He's very, not like a real snotty way, but he's genuinely critiqued, Feige and Marvel with, like, guys, we should have
paraphrasing Mr. Incredible. He's sitting there, like, with plans for the movies, being like, trilogies are trilogies, trilogies are trilogies.
Yes, the whole math is math thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have so we're introduced to Superman. He's 3 years into it. He's lost his first fight, and again, one of the reasons he lost his first fight, and like we kind of subtly like intimated here, one of Superman's weaknesses is that he is not really a fighter because he so rarely is challenged, so he never really has to fight. He can punch, but he's not really like a skilled combatant with a fellow strong. But at least over time he gets to that point. But he's no Batman. He doesn't know how to fight really. He isn't trained.
That's the big difference between him and Batman. He might have all the power, but Batman has the know-how.
Exactly. So so the whole Hammer Bravia thing. So let's talk about this. So Superman, I feel like we really leaned into something. Like, we made him very proactive in how he handles the whole, he's being seen as a political or kind of deified figure. Which the way Snyder approached it, we don't want to turn this completely into a Snyder Gunn comparison, but clearly we're going to be broaching that here and there. But this is kind of the central point one of it, because I told you, and you know this, and everyone kind of knows who listened to our BVS coverage. I was so disappointed with how we handled Superman going to Capitol Hill in that movie, because it was like this build up for a stupid punchline, and then it's like all the marketing is like, okay, this is interesting. What is Superman gonna say to people calling him out on this stuff, and just like Superman being called into question like this. It's an interesting thing. We never really have a satisfying payoff to, and of course BVS we blew up Capitol Hill, which was very disappointing. And Superman just looked sad.
The equivalent of for me, Dragon, and you're probably going to disagree with me here.
Well,
it reminds me of the hang up that I have about, you remember in The Dark Knight Rises, the teaser trailer where we have like Gordon looks like he's practically on his deathbed, like saying like, the Batman must come back. He must come back. And then in the movie, when you actually watch the movie and see the context of the scene, Gordon basically has a fucking cold. like like he was just in the sewers a while. Like you're just like, oh my god, what happened to Gordon?
Okay, he did get shot. He got shot and he tumbled into the thing. But yes, I take your point though.
I'm just saying the actual movie does not emphasize like Gordon is on death's door here. Like it's anyways.
Okay. Anyway, so the point being, he's very Superman's a lot more proactive in how he's handling things. Like he's attempting an interview, and then he goes to the he goes to the DOJ essentially. He's answering for these things, and he's taking it. He's respond again with the whole 3 year. The reason I bring it up is that with him being 3 years into it, we see this is a Superman who is still pretty green. He's a young man. He's still kind of like he's still trying to. He's not quite like the season. He's not your dad's Superman. He's not like the Superman who's like he's fully formed. He's very much the public, like the public service announcement guy. Like obviously this Superman he plays very well with kids. He's very popular, but still, and he is very much like people like that. He's being directly involved in just saving people, but still there is a consequence to what he's doing here, and that he's kind of throwing himself into these conflicts.
Sure, definitely.
But yeah, it's I just love that we express in the big scene with him and Lois doing the interview, her interview with Superman, which was really clever. But I still love the way we do like the whole like, okay, Cronkite, what are you going? He leans forward and Superman, and the Clark and Superman of it all here. We see that in the day to day, Lois and Clark they play up the rivalry. Where secretly, very 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 intimate relationship, but Lois Lane very non-committal. So again, some interesting layers we haven't really seen a lot before. Where they're an item, but she's very willing to break it off as she almost does in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast for dinner, very adorable. And I think a very, very nicely flowing dialogue too, which Gunn, obviously excels at too. The whole breakfast for dinner is, you just like breakfast. Anyway, so the devices, the whole political thing with Superman is like, it's divisive to a point where, again, Superman in his beginnings as a character, he was, remember he was the whole thing with Superman was that he's holding the car above his head, he's saving people, and he's doing the right thing, no matter like darn the consequences. Like he goes after the wife beaters. He grabs them by the scruff of their neck and he throws them like to a judge. He's saving a woman who's on death row by breaking into the gas chamber. Says no, you have the wrong person. This kind of stuff. Like this is Superman in the beginning was a very non-red tape kind of guy, and that's kind of what we're representing here in the early years politically, which I like. And everyone under the sun again was put under a mag, especially all the Snyder fans and everything. It's like, oh, Superman, why is he yelling at Lois in this interview? It's so on Superman. Like, well, you know what?
Wow, the Snyder Bros are saying that Superman being fucking aggressive is un-Superman like? Really?
You know what I mean? It's just that everyone they're looking for
any. Like that's like just the hypocrisy of these.
No, I don't want to just throw the Snyder Bros under the bus on that. I'm just saying that was like
under the bus.
Yeah, but look, Tiki, we want to be better than like the Jim Bro, Snyder Bro guys. We want to be, My point being, Superman yelling, people were going to die. I always like that moment from the marketing and seeing it in context. It plays even better because it's just he's frustrated and he's just expressing that. Why does no one grasp what I'm just trying to? It's the idea that we can't have a pure symbol in the world. Like James Gunn's thesis on Superman is really expressed in that scene. Is that ultimately what he's kind of getting at least I think, is that today's world, we don't deserve a Superman because the world today complicates like pure and just pure intentions, like a pure selfless intention. And we always question it. We're always like looking for like loose threads on it. We're always they're picking away at it, because we just, I don't know. It's just that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like we're just always we just can't have a pure someone with a pure intention. I just want to save people, which to me is what I love with heroes and what I love with Superman. So he just he saves people, but it's the fact that he stopped two countries from going to war with each other, which means he's going to save people on both sides. That's a win-win situation right there. Yes, is he comedically pinning like essentially a dictator president to a to a cactus? Yeah, but it's a cactus. You know, the guy was a prick, so he literalized it. So what?
Right.
But you see what I mean? Those Superman who's making very active decisions versus like the very non-committal. As much as we love Henry Cavill, Cavill, he's
Yeah, I
very
like Henry Cavill. I do not. That doesn't mean I like the way the character was written. It just
yeah.
meant in moments he came across, he gave that energy.
And poor Cavill, he was just he was forced to play it that way. He wanted to play. It's so sad. The best Superman he was able
You
to
can
play.
tell in those rare moments he really could have been a great version of the Superman that we're going for
Like
here.
I love it when he saves that pilot in Man of Steel. It's like the only person he saves that's not Lois.
Right.
But you see where his mother, only the people that he directly knows. It's the only the stranger that he really saves in that movie. But it just feels like the only time he got to play the Superman he wanted to play was in the Justice League. It was in the
Yep.
Justice League,
Yep. Ironically
only in
enough.
the third act of that movie where he's actually being lighthearted, like bantering with the other league members, that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so the point being, seeing him proactive and actually kind of doing stuff darn the consequences. Which again, it's an early Superman, but still, it feels very Superman. He's going to do the right thing no matter what, which is what that character is all about. So maybe the backtrack just a skosh here. We should talk about Crypto and the Fortress stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to go over here.
I know there's a lot to go over. So
Honestly, I'm kind of worried that we're going to go over our time here because, like, okay, so yeah, I mean, I like the thing I really like about Crypto is that he's not. They don't just use him for the cute factor. Like, they obviously do it a little bit, but like, the end of the day, he's kind of an asshole a little
Oh
bit.
yeah,
Not an asshole, but like,
he's a bad dog.
well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this is based on James Gunn, as I'm sure you heard. James Gunn basically, always loves basing, like the animal parts upon like elements of real life. So he had taken in, like, I don't know, he sheltered a dog or whatnot, but he took on a dog.
Honestly, Dragon, if this was Superman's dog from like childhood or something, I would not buy that the dynamic between him and the dog would be like this. The end reveal about Crypto, though, that just
great.
puts everything into perspective. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It did retroactively make it better. I will give you that. Yeah, so the Crypto again. The idea that, but honestly, Crypto was distilled down to this perfect line in the movie, which also reflected very well on Superman, and is why I think Corin Sweat really was an excellent choice to play Superman here. Is that we had this line where Superman's had like the worst day of his life, and he's about to throw it all away yet again to save his dog, and he just says, he's not even a really good
Yeah,
dog,
yeah, for sure.
but he's scared, he's alone, and I gotta help him. It's like that's right there. That's Superman
with the goddamn core. Yeah.
Yes. And he'll just throw it away in an instant just to save the dog that's like biting at his heels and everything. Like, so again, like James Gunn had a very ill-behaved dog, but he loved him. And that's kind of what so those scenes with, Superman and Crypto is absolutely James Gunn and his dog. So my
favorite payoff with Crypto has got to be like, and I think we need to talk about Lex soon, but like just I love the fact that the first time that Superman and Lex meet face to face, it's because Superman is fucking like dead set on getting that dog back.
It is the coolest thing, but we'll get there. But real quick, let's just want to talk about how we establish everything here. So it's a real the statement of Superman being more vulnerable and relatable than usual. We see him beaten versus like the triumphant kind of like introduction. We have qualities of morale, of morality that we know and love about him. But again, it's before he's reached that legendary status. Crypto. He's the untrained dog because of his owner, which we learn later. Again, means well, but he's a little troublemaker. He drags Superman to the fortress. I love the DNA lock on the fortress idea so much. It's such a cool idea. It's a great visual. Fortress looks
unfortunately great. Easily exploitable, which we
no, it's not. Not easily. I mean, I don't think anyone saw what Luthor was capable of doing on that one. Okay, so I mean, if you're gonna have Luthor infiltrate the fortress, that's actually a good way to do it. If you're gonna have him be able to do what he does there, The Superman robots, again, classic Superman idea, visually pulled
Can I
directly
just say,
from
like, Alan Tudyk is becoming like the John Ratzenberger of all of Hollywood, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, but especially
Like
he and
he's just popping up every. I'm not even complaining about it at all. I think it's charming, and honestly, like these robots are like the most fucking Alan Tudyk characters ever. Like he was born to play characters like this.
well, remember that he's only one of those robots. The rest of them are
Yeah,
young
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why I said that.
because we have Michael Rooker as one of them too.
Oh, we do. Oh shit, I missed that.
Yeah.
And I was looking for the reference.
Also, Mantis, Palm,
I
the
caught
actress.
that. I caught that. Yeah.
But yeah, so point being, the Superman robots pulled right off the page from All Star. Alan Tudyk, goes friend of Nathan Fillion. That's mainly how he gets him. He's a friend of Fillion and James Gunn. Which, by the way, Tiki, again, you really, especially if you loved it, you really got to give Resident Alien a proper shot, man. It's really good.
I know, dude. I have so much TV to catch up on, bro. I still need to catch up on The Boys. I need to catch up on My Adventures with Superman. I need to catch up on It's Always Sunny because the new season is.
I've seen the first 2 episodes of that.
I'm so behind on TV, dude. It's not even funny.
Okay, so the big takeaways, of course, we love Alan Tudyk, but beyond that, the fortress, the way we present it here, and the reason we open on it so strongly here is, for a full circle payoff, obviously, which we'll relish later on. But the fortress serves as a big connection, as it always kind of does, but especially here for the point of the story. The fortress is the connection he has to Jor-El and Laura and his Kryptonian heritage. Like everything he's patterned himself on is basically based off this damaged message from his parents. The idea that as a young man, like we've kind of seen the Donner film, but we can infer that he's a young man is probably seeking answers, ends up with the crystal and the Arctic and everything, and this gives him a calling in life, at least the enough to form the calling, which is use your gifts to help people. Which essentially what he got from that message was you're gonna have all these powers, and you can lead humanity into a new beginning and dot dot dot, which we're gonna find later. I love the magnifying glass to accelerate the healing. Everything. My favorite detail. I love the whole
the symbolism of the sun.
Yeah,
I think the symbolism of the sun is one of the coolest visual motifs in the movie. I think.
Yeah. I love the idea, and I love how we pay this off. This to me is like the heartfelt payoff of James Gunn for me here. I love the idea that the robot, the Alan Tudyk, is as the Superman 4 robot, which by the way, I think is intentional. I think he made the lead Superman robot 4 as a reference to Superman 4. I'm convinced.
Right.
Anyway, the point being, he says it's we put on the thing of his the message from his parents to soothe him. It's just a very adorable idea of Superman that he goes to here to relax and kind of remember the parents they never had. It's just really it's a cute idea, which obviously has a great thematic payoff by the very end.
Of course.
Okay, so again, just the breach into our Lex stuff here via the Hammer of Bravia. So Lex Luthor, he is manufactured a war between Bravia and Jaranpur, which now some people are saying this is some people are saying this is directly okay, we're being very, very up to date and political with the state of the world, which I'm not discounting, but you got to remember, DC has done this all.
It is, and I feel like, frankly, honestly, I'm just going to put my foot down on this. We are at a point in our culture where we need to be this fucking overtly political.
Well, sure. What I'm getting at is that DC's done this all for many times. Like we've covered it with the anime back, like Kaznia, or Young Justice. They had basically they had a fill-in for North and South Korea with North and South Malaysia, and there's always an eponymous kind of there's basically whatever warring nations are current at the time, we would basically kind of parody or give kind of a fake made up name in DC. So this is kind of the update on that, which you can fill it in for whatever you really want, whether it be like a Russia Ukraine or obviously all the Israel Iran thing, whatever, however you want to do that. But the point being, though, it's it's the fact that we have warring nations and some really shady stuff going on the sides here, which we're kind of bringing into the on the big screen via Superman. Some people have had some pointed opinions on that, but again, I think James Gunn walked a fine enough line where yes, we need to draw attention to this, but we don't have to say the actual nation's name. So yeah.
people having pointed opinions on like the Israel-Palestine thing, that's understandable. That's a heated topic.
That's what I meant. Sorry, I think I threw the other one.
I think the controversy over like, oh, this is like pro-immigrant. I'm like, motherfucker, Superman has always been an immigrant story. Are you fucking media illiterate?
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say about that. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into that, but I just think it's stupid that we're at a point where we're fucking having to debate that.
But Tiki, to your point there, without dwelling on the specifics, it's just the fact that when you boil down Lex and Superman's whole dynamic, is that Lex does, and this is kind of everywhere with Lex when done right, is that Lex, he hates the fact that that he's an alien, and we just kind of, so again, it's kind of more relevant than ever before in a sense, where you have like Lex just really big. That's always been like the biggest arrow in his quiver to take Superman down.
I don't even think James Gunn like meant to write Lex as Trump coded as he probably comes off, but it's like that's just kind of the world we're living in now.
Okay, look, I'm not trying to be political, but I will say this. You gotta remember, though, the crazy thing about that, though, is that, remember, Lex was the original, he was, the billionaire who became president. He was the original billionaire who became president. Yeah. And then, of course, history kind of imitated the comics in that regards. That's kind of that's how that shaped up. So that's not technically something we can accredit to life, It's just funny in full circle in that respect.
Well, it's not funny, but yeah.
Well, it's sad. It's like a sad, funny kind of. But it's a scary funny. It was always like the scary observation of like Superman doubted it would happen too, and then lo and behold, it happened in real life.
Exactly.
That was the gag from the comics. Anyway, point being, Lex, he's made. He's manufactured this war between these nations to basically make weapons deals, net him a lot of cash, also net him land, which again, Donner Superman in there, he wants a kind of like a Lextopia going on there. He wants kind of like the whole San Andreas fault line plan to a degree. And later on we reveal, and I love this so much. I love that later on we reveal that all of that, well, like a fringe benefit of like the arms dealing and the land, he ultimately did all of this so he could turn the world against Superman and get the okay to kill him, because they turned their back on him. That's all he wanted. He just hated Superman that much. And this is what I love about the great villain characters, especially the great DC villain characters like the Reverse Flash and Lex Luthor, is that it's always driven by the pettiest, most personal little bit of revenge. That's what makes it great.
John and Nick Holt says, you used me for land development.
Which is true.
Okay, dude, we need to talk about Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm just gonna fucking throw it down. Like, I personally think that David Cornswood is probably my personal favorite Superman, because I understand that Christopher Reeve is like untouchable or whatever. But I just think David Cornswood, he adds like a modern sensibility to what Christopher Reeve, to the foundation that Christopher Reeve kind of like built. But this has got to be maybe Michael Rosenbaum, just because like I did really love Michael Rosenbaum based on the one Smallville episode I watched recently. But I mean, just as far as cinematic Lex Luthors go, this has got to be the best. This is the best by a fucking mile.
By the way, Rosenbaum cameos in this movie.
Yeah, Eli pointed that out as Raptor Guard #1, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, James Gunn did really love Smallville, so he did work in a few Smallville.
I kind of feel what you're saying. I too am a little bit tired of Lex Luthor being so predominant in Superman. That being said, I feel like for this universe, you need to establish Luthor, and you need to establish him strongly. And I think they made a really smart choice with that. And I definitely think that we can get stuff like Brainiac and Bizarro going forward. I just think like now that this Luthor's established, like I'm interested to see where we go from here. But yeah, Nicholas Hoult, man, he is such a hateable little fucking brat, and he is having such a fun time playing that. And
he nailed it so well. I was so happy with his Lex. He did such a great, everything that Eisenberg Lex could have been.
Absolutely, no, for sure. This Dragon, when Eisenberg was cast as Lex, this is exactly the performance that I wanted to
Right?
get out of Eisenberg. Yeah,
God.
absolutely.
So it's such a great take on Lex. Nick Holt, he freaking nailed it. Here's the thing: it's the perfect balance of smarmy businessman and also gifted scientist because he's very smart.
And also, he's just very childish at the same time.
Again, the ego. He has the huge ego. I love that Luthor Corp. Which by the way, Luthor Corp, going with that version of the Lex Corp kind of thing. That's a nod to Smallville. There's a lot of Smallville nods in this here and there. Luthor Corp looking down on the city because again, at the end of the day,
I love that visual. Yeah, I love the first shot that we get of where we like establish that headquarters, and we see the we see all of them looking out the window. Like, oh, really good visual there. Yeah,
I just love when you distill down, even from a visual standpoint, Lex and Superman. It's the idea that Lex has flight envy. It's the idea Lex can he can be in the tallest skyscraper in Metropolis, but Superman will always be able to fly, and that will always make him jealous. I love that so much. He will always have the high ground, and Luthor can't abide that. So Lex's plot. I mean, I really do love. I love he's so brilliant and he's so bad. He's just using the hammer of Baravia and the kaiju to distract Superman, which it's basically everything I love. I love that everything Lex does here ultimately is that he cannot go toe-to-toe with Superman, but everything he does compensates for that in all the right clever ways, and some ways I never thought of. I know Jeremy Johns had a problem with it, but I don't care. It was just so cool. I love the idea that Lex has studied Superman so much. He knows how he fights. He can't fight him himself. But he, again, through something he can program, again, the Hammer of Bravia, a.k.a. Ultraman, a.k.a. something else we'll talk about later. The fact that he has all these command codes, which allows Lex to kind of vicariously fight Superman in a way he would win had he had the... That, to me, was the most brilliant thing. And also, I don't know that people realize this, deep cut reference to All-Star Superman. At the very top of All-Star Superman, which, by the way, one little theater experience thing. They gave out copies of the first issue, like reprints of All-Star Superman with like a David Corn Sweat Superman cover.
Nice.
At the AMC. Anyway, but yeah. So this top of that story, Lex is like giving commands to like a genetically engineered monster thing, and it's like there's like a delay because from Earth to space. So it's like he's basically fighting Superman or doing things that lead to what happened to Superman in that movie. In that, in the movie and the comic, it's like in a delayed thing. So it's kind of like it's more the instantaneous version of that, which I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I thought about that. That's so cool. That's a way of having him do without the Lexo suit, which basically, fun fact, all the Raptor guards, they're wearing the Lex exosuit. So that's a nod to like his power suit that he has in the comic. That's great.
All right. Okay, let's see. Do you want to quickly go through the Justice Gang?
Well, yeah, real quick. I want just a little bit more with Lex, just real quick. So I want to hit some of the... So, again, Lex, we're taking elements of Donner, we're updating him and reinventing him here. Eve Tessmacher, Miss Tessmacher, she's she's an influencer. And also ultimately betrays Lex, not for Superman, but for Jimmy Olsen this go around. Or made a really great Jimmy Olsen.
Fucking ladies, man, Jimmy Olsen is, and I equally love how he's like not even really interested in it. He just kind of has a pull with women, almost in spite of himself.
Yeah, we had a really good actor playing Jimmy Olsen too. He's the kid from Santa Clarita Diet.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, very, very good.
You know who he kind of reminded me of, Dragon?
Who do you remind you of?
He reminded me of Michael Gandolfini.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, maybe.
He kind of had that same sort of vibe to him.
Sure, I mean, I'll give. Yeah, I guess.
Anyways.
Anyway, so also, we had Otis. We had the black gentleman who was on the, who's on the command deck when it kind of detaches. That guy, that's Otis. From the whole Otisburg gag from Donner Superman.
I did hear people in the audience being like, "It's Otis! It's Otis!"
Yep. But sometimes in the comics they give him the last name just in reference. Remember, Otis was like an original.
Is he basically like Lex's equivalent to Bob?
Yeah.
That's what I
He was the
thought.
original Bob. Before there was a Bob, there was Otis. That's the thing.
Right,
So
right,
Otis
right.
was an original character created for Donner Superman because the great Ned Beatty played him. And he was
Uh-huh.
hilarious and a hilarious foil to Lex. And he was so popular because we had the scene. I'm going to get a little misty here, okay? My grandfather and I would always quote lines from Donner Superman because you love the fact that Brando's in. That was one of the main reasons I love the movie, and Gene Hackman. And because of that, because I love the Gene Hackman. One of our favorite scenes to quote was Otisburg because it's the idea that Otis added his name to all the continents in Lex's little presentation. He just like stops the presentation of Superman. He just like Otisburg. It was a small place, Mr. Luthor. Just it's
Right,
like
right,
Otisburg. I'll erase it. That kind of.
right.
So sometimes they actually give him the last name Berg because of that joke, which cracks me up to no end. So the fact that we got Otis in there, and again we have Lex infiltrating the fortress like he did in Superman 2 in the Arctic gear and everything. So this is what I'm saying, like all these little Donner nods that are worked into the plot in a way that makes sense. I loved it.
For sure, for
Okay,
sure.
so let's talk about the Justice Gang. So here's now I want to be clear to you, we're actually going to flesh these guys out more in how the whole Justice League came about in this universe in Peacemaker season 2.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it. And this is just this is absolutely James Gunn's wheelhouse, which is what I really like about these guys is that like for everything that James Gunn gets right with the Superman character, this is where he really gets to play. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so that's just really fun in its own right.
Yeah, so the backstory, it's visual. There's some the shame about this movie is that there's a lot of really great storytelling. It's like blink and you miss it in the visual like background design of things, like the Hall of Justice and Lois's apartment. I think was Lois's apartment or her like corner of the Daily Planet. But if you notice, for example, in the background of like Lois's story, she took down Stag Industries over the Metamorpho thing because we see Metamorpho in the movie. So while we don't really get into his origin story, it's kind of there, and you can fill in like the details because we have like the ideas that Metamorpho, he fell in love with the boss's daughter and they had a kid together. And that they had the accident befall him very intentionally by a Simon Stagg who hated Rex Mason. That's essentially what his story is, and we kind of have enough details there. And if we go to Stagg Industries, the comics just enough. You can little column B, you can fill that in there. On the flip side, in the whole Justice, we have the Justice Society as they have like some pictures of the Justice Society on the wall, and Maxwell Lord, who we see kind of pop up in the movie later on. Maxwell Lord, we're going to see it's Sean Gunn playing him.
I was actually really surprised that we just get a cameo from him at the very end.
Yeah, so the idea is
I'm looking forward to seeing more of him for sure. I'm sure he'll probably be in Peacemaker, right?
Oh, that's saying he is in Peacemaker. Yeah,
yeah.
So the idea, Tiki, that we kind of have very subtly alluded to here that Peacemaker is going to directly kind of like reveal to us is he's bankrolling the Justice League or the Justice Gang or whatever permutation they are.
I mean, we already pretty much established that here.
Well, yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, so the point being, we kind of establish it here, but it's very kind of lightly in the background. I will admit, I have a bit of a logic problem with the logo. Okay? I don't know about you, but we see there's like a uniform look to the way the Justice League's costumes are designed. You notice it looks like kind of like a J and an L built into a logo, right? Like Guy Gardner's, like the white on Guy Gardner's thing, and then Hawk Girl and everything. It looks very much like a J and an L. How do we adjust this gang from a J and an L? That's what I want to ask you.
Because we can't call it the Justice League yet?
Well, that's what I'm saying, but why is there a J and an L on the...
I don't know, Dragon. Okay. That's a good question.
In all seriousness, I think the only rationale, look, obviously it might have just been a we don't care thing. It could have very well been. I think it's supposed to be 2 L's for like Lord, for like Maxwell. That's what I think.
Let's see. John Kelling says it's a J and a sideways G.
Really? Is that what it is? Okay, maybe that's what I don't know. It just feels. Plus, it's like weird to brand it like that when we know they're non-committal on a name. But fair point. I'm withholding judgment on that until we actually get a Justice League or whatever. But you're right though, Tiki. Gunn's thriving in the Justice Gang. It's very appropriate to call them the Justice Gang, not the Justice League yet, because clearly we are missing some very prominent members.
Uh, Eli, I think Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord is like one of the few times that Hollywood kind of fucking got it wrong with Pedro Pascal. One of the few times.
I still
Because
like him.
I did not. I mean, he was like all right, but I just honestly, with that performance, it was more the writing than anything else that I didn't like about it.
I think he did the best he could with that role.
No, he did. You're right, but it's still just like like right off the top. I absolutely think that Sean Gunn is going to be better. All right.
Yeah. So let's see. Anyway, yeah. So breaking this, we have Guy Gardner, played by the wonderful Nathan Fillion, who's having a lot of fun with it. Basically, the non-PC hero equivalent with Superman,
Uh huh.
which is a lot of fun. I'm sure Gunn kind of
He has
thrived
a
in.
lot of Woody Harrelson energy for me in the
Yeah,
performance,
that's a
which
good
is like
comparison.
I like that because when I think Nathan Fillion, I usually think of like like the suave kind of like cowboy guy. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I don't usually think full on like smarmy. He doesn't. He can play like a Han Solo type, but he doesn't go full smarm usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, that's the balance you want to strike. I want to be clear, okay? Nathan Fillion, so he's very talented. I truly do believe at my core he would have been good for either Green Lantern role, for either Hal Jordan or Guy Gardner. And clearly, he did great as Guy Gardner, okay? Because
Uh-huh.
he loves the Green Lantern character.
I
Usually, he's
love that we
playing.
directly call out the hair.
Well, yeah, you have to. That's his like defining character trait, Tiki. Always, it's always the
Right,
bowl cut.
right.
But yeah, so the fact is like there's a fine line between charm and just kind of like a jerk, which Guy Gardner very much it's the hat trick of like getting people to care about Guy Gardner despite him being kind of as the English put him, a right prick sometimes. But yeah, but I like that we saw it. For me, I think Guy Gardner's biggest big awesome moment in the movie, which I was like, yeah, was when he saved that kid. Man, when he put that kid in the box, is like, sorry,
Sorry,
kid.
kid. Superman can't come, so you get an upgrade.
But it's like it's this amazing. It's almost like you have like the backup for the birthday party kind of moment. It's like,
Yes, yes, yes.
but again, it was like in this moment where he's like Guy Gardner's doing something really heroic, and the fact that he was the one saying, "Oh, I'm not interfering in a political conflict." The Guardians of the Universe, they don't let us do that sort of thing. Where he just shows up and it's a really good, nice moment of growth for him. That's also seeing him like be a hero versus a jerk. It was nice.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. So Hawk Girl, people loving Hawk Girl.
Yeah, it's nice to see Isabella Merced get a win after The Last of Us, because I really like Isabella Merced, but her role in The Last of Us season 2 was very underrated, very unremarkable, unfortunately. So it's nice to see her kind of get to shine a little bit more. I love the fucking Screech dragon. The Screech is so good.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Also, I really wish, I kind of wish there was a nod to it. I know there was no room because the movie's already jam packed, but it would have been really cool if we had like a nod to the whole Death of Superman Lives thing, where the Thanagarian snare beast, because she's Thanagarian. She's
Right. Yeah.
I know there wouldn't have been any room for it. Would have made sense. It would have been just kind of cute. But anyway, so Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific, played by Eddie, I'm butchering his last name, Gathly.
And this guy is like, he is absolutely like James Gunn is just like, okay, this is my pet project for the movie. This is my polka dot man.
To be fair, Mr. Terrific is always he's a really cool character. He was the guy who was kind of running point in JLU when Martian Manhunter kind of went away. So he was always kind of like, that was kind of the animated equivalent that he had. He was on the Arrow show. He looked on the money, but character wise, we kind of he was like the Force Tech guy of the crew. We didn't really do anything with him. But here, this is like, seriously, this is like kind of the equivalent of the JLU one. This is like that guy given room to grow and breathe and be a fully fleshed out character. This is nice. This is great. He was the idea of Michael Holtz, like he was like a kind of a tech genius who kind of became a hero. It's kind of like what if Lucius Fox like full on became like a superhero. That's kind of what you have with Mr. Terrific.
Sure.
So yeah, he was on the money. I like that we kind of had the personal moment with him because no one knows anything about Mr. Terrific. Just the idea that he's
goddamn Mr. Terrific.
Exactly, where he's, we had him like kicking butt on the beach, and also like him, him like telling Lois,
So can
I
we talk
really
about that beach scene really quick?
sure.
Because for me, I love that beach scene because, and Peregrine and I, we did our fucking Golden Tiki nominations, Dragon, which I'm sure you were thrilled to see us do. And we had like, I really wanted to nominate. The song is called 5 Years Time by the band Noah and the Whale. I really wanted to nominate that because I think James Gunn shows a lot of restraint as far as like he knows if he really wanted to, he could fill this movie with pop songs, in the same way that Guardians is. But this is the one time in the movie where he really gets to have fun with it. And this is basically like a Guardians of the Galaxy awesome mix style action scene.
It's the
And it's
Yondu
used,
scene.
and it's used specifically to show off this awesome character that's totally in James Gunn's wheelhouse. That's basically his pet project for the movie. Like, I love that, Dragon. For me, that scene is almost like the signature that James Gunn put on the painting, if that makes sense.
Right. One could say that scene is, in other words, terrific.
Yeah, one could say that.
There you go.
All right.
All right, let's see. So, yeah, okay, look, John Killing's pointed out the semantics with him. Or look, there's like two versions of Hawkgirl. Okay, it's kind of hard to sort out which one's which at the moment. I think the Shire Hall one that was in jail, the Justice League and JLU was Thanagarian. That's what I subscribed to. So maybe the specific version is one's reincarnated. They kind of blended the two in the show. Let's not get semantical about Hawkgirl, but fair point. Anyway.
Also, I'm sorry, John Kelling. At this point, like we've got so much to go over, dude, and like I'm really struggling to keep up with the comments, Dragon. The comments are coming like faster than I can keep up with them. So, Dragon, if you see a comment that you really want me to highlight, let me know. But like I'm at this point in the podcast, I'm just kind of like there is so much shit to go over. Oh, yeah. So we just have to kind of like economize our time the best we can.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, real quick. I do have a gripe with the movie, and it's not a deal breaker gripe, but it's like something because of the marketing, all the scrutiny on the marketing, I couldn't help but notice in the movie, and I wonder how founded it really is.
Uh-huh.
The CG and the camera work for some scenes, not the terrific scene's fine, nothing wrong with the terrific scene, but I'm saying the other scenes in the movie, specifically the scenes of Superman, the flight, and everything, the fighting. It's a little distracting to me because it's been pointed out, there was like one bad shot that James Gunn wasn't even going to use in the final movie that was in that trailer where he looks a little off when he's like he's all wall-eyed looking to the side, right, and that that whole infamous thing. And obviously they corrected in the movie, but because of that, every time he's flying now, I can't help but think I can't help but notice the CG nature of it, and clearly, in the day and age we're operating, we have to have some CG for how we portray Superman, especially if he's fighting a giant kaiju. I understand that, but it's like this weird.
I understand what you're saying. My pushback on it is that I feel like at this point, James Gunn is a filmmaker where, honestly, he doesn't really care about realistic looking CGI. And I don't even think he really tries to have his stuff look realistic. But what he's good at is art direction and color palettes. And that's where I think the visual look of the movie really thrives, in spite of the fact that, yes, the CGI is not the most realistic looking CGI in the world.
Well, that's half of my point. The other half, that's about the CG of it. Now, with the camera, I can't help but notice that especially when we're fighting at the stadium with the Engineer, and Ultraman, Superman, I think James Gunn's trying a little too hard with the camera work. Now, that's not like a big criticism against the movie because the scenes themselves are really good, but it just feels like we're whipping that camera around. I can just kind of sense that James Gunn's feeling the pressure. I got to really deliver on this Superman movie. I got to throw everything at it. It's not like nice, not a criticism. It's just kind of I can't help but notice. It's like man, he's really working that camera in these action scenes.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of just like Gunn's style to a certain extent,
I don't think he's done that in other movies, though. I don't think he's worked.
Okay, you know what? Doug Walker. I'm gonna say Doug Walker here. God fucking help me. He actually had a good point with the action scenes, and basically, like, what the action scenes are in this movie are essentially like most of them are kind of like trying to recreate the magic of the hallway fight from Guardians Volume 3.
There you go.
So I think Doug's right about that, and I think it works for better and for worse. I mean, I think it's like, I think like I don't know, Dragon. Honestly, with this movie, I'm just not really that focused on the action. I think there's so much substance beyond the action, and the action that we do get, I think, is good. Um,
I'm
but
focused on the action because,
unlike Superman Returns, which has like 2 fucking action scenes in the whole movie, and the rest of the movie's boring as shit.
Yeah,
I think the stuff in between the action scenes in this movie is fascinating.
well, yeah, Marty, I care about the action scenes because I care about Superman if he's going to make it out of it or not, which obviously he is, but it looks pretty grim for him in a few places.
Well, yeah, and you made the point that like Superman is a lover, not a fighter in this universe, and I do really like the fact that he is like solidly getting his ass handed to him in this. I don't know. I think that works well with the character. I think it makes sense.
Okay, so speaking of which, perhaps we should talk about Ultraman the Engineer.
Okay, but when do you want to talk about the Kryptonian stuff, the message?
Well, I mean, I would figure we'd do it after we talk about the characters. But you want to do that first, then?
I kind of do.
Sure, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it
about that.
Okay, so I think one of the most so this is a big swing that James Gunn took, and I think it was a brilliant swing that he took. This is a great idea.
I agree.
So I love the idea that Luthor weaponizes Superman's parents against him. I thought it was like the most genius evil thing I've seen Lex do in a long time. I was like, oh my god.
I have one nitpick with it, and that nitpick is that I thought it was like a little sloppy the way that they wrote off like, oh no, there's no possible way it could be doctored. Sorry, Superman.
Well, Mr. Terrific ruled that out though.
No, I get that, but like what I'm trying to say though is like I think it's a little convenient, like that we just kind of like wipe away the possibility of it being doctored. But that being said, it's a brilliant plot point. I do love it. Ironically enough, Dragon, to speak to Doug Walker again, I'm sorry to keep bringing him up, but this is absolutely the thing in the movie that pissed him off the most. This rubbed him the wrong way, Dragon, ironically enough, which is funny. So here is I think I kind of like this observation. All right, you ready?
All right.
I think that what separates this Superman from Zack Snyder's Superman is that if we saw that Zack Snyder's Superman had this message as a kid and grew up with with the full message, we would be like, yeah, that checks out. That's not really a surprise. I don't know. I'm being a fucking comedian. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you think on some level you get what I'm saying though?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
All right.
Okay, so real quick, we should actually, since you bring up that, we should backtrack just the skosh before we dive into like the whole like the big reveal. I just want to talk about the kaiju battle real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I love seeing Superman save people, and it feels very much like a course correction of the
Dragon,
Snyder Superman.
I was thinking of you throughout this whole fucking scene. Like, I was like, this is basically like Dragon's superhero, like, not porn, but you know what I mean. I don't say that in a derogatory way. I'm just like, oh, this is like so...
This is his Nirvana. Dragon. Just say Nirvana, okay?
Sure, yeah. Right. He saves a squirrel, Dragon. He saves a goddamn squirrel. How cool is that?
It's just such a course correction from the Snyder Superman stuff, where it's like he's being mindful of the buildings, of the bystanders. He's saving the little girls. Like, you guys okay? It's like, yes, there's my super. Yes, it's great. and then this was even better. I love that he's trying not to kill the creature, and he's like thinking about intergalactic zoo or stuff like that. Like Mr. Terry's like rolling his eyes. Okay, well, just go for the eyes and everything. But Superman, we don't know what this crazy optimistic guy's doing.
Right. Yeah.
Kill the thing. I just love Superman.
Stuff like that is why I really just love David Cornsweet in this role, dude. He's just I just think he's perfect. I
have one gripe with Cornsweet. So just one it's a stupid gripe. I want to be very clear. This is a very inconsequential thing, but it's like the one gripe that I have, and I hate. I bring it up because people have dogged on it as like an example or something. But it's like I really if there's just one line that there's one thing that ism that he kind of does. Not even an ism. I don't like Superman saying "dude."
Yeah, no, I feel you on that.
If
I
I
feel
could
you
have
on that.
excised just
That's
one singular,
it's just a little bit. It's a little bit too, too like of the time for sure.
people
I
have
feel
said
you.
like it's too Peter Quill, and I mean I hate to agree with them, but it's like
It is a
not.
little bit. It is a little bit. You're not wrong there.
It's just like
It's
if I could
very.
just
If anything else, it is just very Guardians of the Galaxy coded dialogue,
yeah
just in general.
if I could just excise like the one singular line, if I could just like take it in like almost like a spell check thing, would just take all the dudes out of the out of his dialogue. It's like that's the one. Otherwise, he's a phenomenal thing. That's not even like a saying. It's not a divot at all against what he's doing. It's like out of because I know out of context people are going to say, "Does this Superman sound like Superman?" Well, that's not a bad example. It's just one line. Come on,
Right.
you know. Anyway, okay, so back to these. Anyway, so of course, after this save, after this great action sequence, of course, the people loving the Justice Gang and everything, and Superman hanging out with the kids. So I love the right after this victory of like, okay, everything you want in Superman, then we bring it down on his poor head. Lex, it's being telecast and everything. Lex is he snuck into the fortress. He got the message from his parents, and thanks to the engineer, he fixed up the garbled part of it. And so Lex is using the fact that Superman's an alien against him, and he's using his tech savviness to translate the message, which essentially is that his parents, and I love that his parents, well, sorry, I'm jumping at it. His parents picked the Earth because it was such a mess and it had a yellow sun. And basically, they've instructed Kal-El that look, you're going to have all this strength and you can fix this planet, but to do so, statistically, you're going to have to take it over and
I honestly,
populate it.
the interesting thing here is, I honestly don't even think they mean to be like evil.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that's what I'm saying. I love the fact that it's just it's the optimism at play here with Superman is that they're taking a very and so now Man of Steel had this to a degree as well. Not with what you're thinking.
Well, Man of Steel
like,
had the exact opposite problem with the
no.
parents. It was Jonathan Kent who was a fucking monster in that movie.
No. True. What I'm getting at is something that not a lot of people give Man of Steel credit for is that Man of Steel has a very John Byrne Superman vibe. John Byrne Superman was very much, I forget if it came right after the 78 film or right before, but it was in that 70s period, and essentially it was like, we love the Donner Superman so much, we're gonna make something it's gonna feel like kind of the comics equivalent to doing a Donner super, like a kind of a Superman movie on the page, which essentially defines Superman pretty much through the 80s until we retconned everything with Crisis and all that stuff. The point being, that was the first time they really reinvented like the classic backstory had been there since the 30s, right? Sure. That's when they had some interesting ideas, and this is the kind of stuff that leads us to what can we reinvent it again, like Superman animated series, where it's like, what if Kryptonians were, they saw the Earth when they were scouting it out, and they were kind of like they were neat freaks, they were very cleanly, obsessive, compulsive people, so they found like that's when we got the idea that we saw in Man of Steel, like. Kal-El was like the first natural birth, where traditionally Kryptonians were like they use like a birthing matrix, kind of they use like technology to do like the egg and everything and that kind of thing, like science for procreation, that kind of stuff. So what I'm getting at is like Krypton having a very clinical scientific view of the Earth, which we're kind of doing here to an extent, and the idea that in contrast to Superman's very optimistic and very hopeful worldview, his parents, biological father had a very pragmatic.
Which, by the way, I love that it's Bradley Cooper.
I love that. I was such a great surprise. Like,
yes. I've heard some pushback about it, like, oh, it should be someone who's unrecognizable. I'm like, bitch, they got Marlon goddamn Brando in this role in the first Superman movie. This is a role that's meant to be played by an A-lister. Come on now.
By the way, you did catch like the fun connective tissue of one of the benefits you get from casting Bradley Cooper in this role, don't you?
Tell me.
Wasn't he John Peters in Licorice Pizza?
Oh, yes, he was. Yeah, oh, you're right. Oh, man.
And remember, John Peters did, I think he still might own Superman, so technically... Superman's father.
Wouldn't it be great if we got the actual giant spider fight in this movie? I could actually see James Gunn doing the giant spider fight in the sequel.
We could have done it in the parallel, in the pocket dimension. That's
right,
the only
right.
we
Yeah,
could have.
yeah.
In theory, we could have done it. Okay. Anyway,
and he hides behind a fucking rock. And I can honestly see this Superman doing that.
Oh, that's the $6 million man. Oh. Okay. Anyway, so the point being, his parents having this very scientific, very kind of cold, calculated outlook, and like, well, look, statistically, the planet,
it's just Kryptonians being Kryptonians, essentially.
Yeah, it's just the fact
it's essentially like a cultural difference.
Yeah, it's a culture. It's a cultural difference that's just looking at the scientific data, which is like, okay, look, statistically, the planet's just getting worse. People aren't getting better. They need, it's the idea that we need someone to take us out of like all the horrible stuff that's going on in the world. Basically, they need a hero, but clearly, they to affect real change. Like they're just having a very like you're probably going to need to become a kind of a dictator to rule that planet, otherwise because they're not going to accept you for very logical reasons, which we kind of see because there's always going to be doubt and everything. You're never going to overcome this, so you're going to need to take them over. It's not like they're saying, oh yes, you must, you're going to like an evil way. It's just like statistically that's the only way everyone's going to fall in line and stop themselves from destroying each other, which Superman in the midst of this movie is kind of, his parents are kind of right.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And what you have nations going to war with each other, and they can't get along.
It's a really fascinating moral dilemma. I really love it,
and I love that.
But I love the fact that the entire plot of this movie, like this is basically the inciting incident of the movie.
Yes,
and the entire plot of this movie kind of revolves around Superman taking media heat, and I love that, man. It's so like it's Spider-Man coded in a way, which I really, really like. And especially because with Superman, it's like you have the Daily Planet angle, and you have the angle. We need to talk more about Lois, by the way.
I know there's a lot to talk about.
Rachel Brosnahan so far, but
yeah,
like there's, I don't know. I really love and then of course the fucking thing that we do with the internet trolls, which we'll get to, is like the most James Gunn thing that James Gunn has ever put on screen, but yeah, I don't know. I just love the idea of like Superman. Like it's almost kind of like, how in the first Superman movie you have that moment, like after Pa Kent dies and he's like, all this power and I couldn't
even save him. Yes, it's the moment.
Like obviously that moment is going to resonate more than what we're going through here, but it's still kind of like the same idea of like, I have all this power, but I cannot control the public perception of me.
Yep.
It's kind of like a more internalized version of that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, to a degree. Yeah, it's a little separated from it, but I understand the idea of that Superman is powerless. Something that Superman's powerless against. He can't punch. He can't kind of like use his strength or his gifts.
Yeah, and we see him like go pretty much unhinged. Like like again, like with him breaking into LexCorp to specifically for the dog. By the way, one of my favorite Lex Luthor moments in the whole movie.
The coffee cup.
Is how nonchalant Nicholas Hoult is about the whole thing. He's like, "Oh, Superman, we finally meet."
No, you're right. That's great. And it's a second time they meet 3 times in the movie. Again, kind of one could say it's kind of within 3 acts they kind of meet each other, kind of.
Yeah, which is great.
Anyway, so I'm sorry, folks. There's so much to break down here. But yeah, so
dude, it's like this is like I had a couple people ask if they could come on for this, and I'm like, man, there's too much to cover. There's too much to cover. I'm sorry.
Anyway, but the point being like is the fact that poor Superman just down there in this moment, surrounded by the people, all these kids being like taken by their parents, like, hey, back away from the colorful man, back away from the man in the cape.
And then of course we also we kind of breezed over this, but we need to set up I forget his name, but the citizen that specifically steps up to help Superman.
Yeah, the food vendor guy. I want to say it was falafel, but I don't want to put him in a box.
It would be great if it was a shawarma cart Or would that be too on the
Well,
nose?
that's the thing. I don't know if it was shawarma
I don't
or
think it was shawarma. I
I
think more
think it
people would
was.
be talking about it if it was
But
shawarma.
if anyone was going to be able, if someone was going to have the stones to do that, it would have been James Gunn. Because I don't think it was hot dogs. I really think it was falafel, but I don't know.
I think you're right.
Anyway,
Anyways.
but you're right though. I love during the Bravia thing, we had like that guy kind of step up and saves her, and like Lex took a note and he says like, "Hey, run facial recognition." I knew that was going to come back later. I did not expect.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally,
God.
totally.
I didn't expect to
We'll
be
get
as
there. We'll
twisted
get
as it was, but God.
there.
Anyway, so the fact is, again, his parents just putting it on Front Street so directly, and the fact that humanity cannot be open-minded enough to just take the criticism and then understand the gray in the situation. They're making a very blunt call about humanity, which historically, going back 30 years from then, absolutely, this would have definitely, something to say about, the way the world is, and especially now, like what's really changed. Like people aren't introspective, people fire from the hip, and that's kind of the world we live in. And of course, in the age of social media, then it's in an instant, and that's what we see unfold before our eyes. And poor Superman getting stuff through him, and it's the fact that Superman, he can't even process how people are feeling about it. He's just reeling from his whole worldview being based on a lie, or being based on
Right,
like a horrible.
exactly. He doesn't even have time to unpack the media part.
And what's so
He's concerned
fascinating,
about like what it means for him, like as far as his upbringing goes, and he's obviously concerned about crypto. That's what's on his mind.
yeah. So I by the way, I love that in again, I know obviously they're not technically in the same universe, but it's the fact that recently Batman and Superman, we've been playing with this idea in our reinventions of the Batman and Superman characters. Where Batman, I know Telltale did it first, but between Telltale and the Batman, we've kind of examined the idea of like
I very
what.
much was thinking of Telltale when that plot point came up.
But yeah, the idea of what if the parents weren't so noble, or what if Thomas Wayne did some shady stuff, and like where
Right,
does that
right.
leave Batman? So that's kind of where we're looking at these characters, and we kind of also My Adventures of Superman. We kind of had a little bit of that there too, where we Krypton, was again we didn't go full tilt with it like we did here, but again there was the whole thing of like Clark didn't understand what Krypton was about, and there was a bit of a menace there, and there's I I encourage you to rewatch and watch through season 2 of My Adventures of Superman, Tiki, but
No, I know. I like I said, I'm in the middle of season 2. I'm getting through it.
So Superman being canceled in the modern era for something that is not at all his fault, it's his upbringing, and Tiki, the fact that it's a the reason we take away the ambiguity, I think, is because we don't want Superman has to live with this. He has to live with the reality of the situation, what's going on here. We can't have an undo button. We can't have like Superman being the truthful character that he is. He could very easily like make if he had a spin team, they would have absolutely said like, no, 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 clearly Doctor. Look at Lex Luthor. He's got all his bad blood. Superman, clearly it's Doctor. Superman wouldn't abide that. He'd has to like, yes, this. He would explain to him the full context if anyone would bother to listen, but they're not.
Uh-huh.
And I love that he kind of tells that to Lois in a very defeated scene. Also, hilariously, amidst all this sad stuff that's happening with Superman, the super harem thing trending is still really funny. It's the idea that the big takeaway
Yes,
people
yes.
had is like, like you must, the populate the Kryptonian species like super harem. Anyway, you're right though. So one of the coolest things, so after he's just kind of reeling from this, and also guys getting in his face and everything, he he goes to the fortress to find what's happening. The Alan Tudyk Superman bot's essentially dying or essentially powering down. Thankfully, robot, you can fix him up later.
You know what breaks my heart about that scene when Lex invades the fortress is how fucking like nonchalant the Alan Tudyk robots are about like, oh my, I'm terribly sorry, but this is a restricted area. It's like, what are they gonna do? What are they really gonna do? It's like they are so cooked in that moment. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, yes. Anyway, so then of course after he tends to him, he then realized, wait, where's Crypto? And then in an instant, we just got to smashing through Lex's office, which again, Donner nod to when he cried, "You'll be billed for the door later," that kind of thing, and he's like throwing the desk. Where's the dog? And it's like, yes.
Oh, so satisfying. So satisfying.
It's like seeing Superman again. He's not going to hurt Lex, but he is so pissed off right now. And just seeing Superman,
Right,
but it's
right.
over the well-being of the dog. It's not over. It's not himself. It's not he's angry at him for like what he did with his parents. It's just this whole thing of like, where's the dog? He knows Lex has the dog, but he can't torture him, even though he kind of wants to in this moment.
Uh-huh.
And Tessmacher's like videoing it all, and it's just making Superman's day all. Worse, it gives Lex exactly what he needs to take Superman down. So it's like Lex being so calculated and so smart. And then again, Superman's bad day. He's comforted by Lois, and this is our bridge to talk about Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Rachel Brosnahan, like what I love about this casting is that like I feel like with Mrs. Maisel, like Mrs. Maisel kind of proved that Rachel Brosnahan could do a role like this. But what I really specifically love about her performance though is that she doesn't lean into the Mrs. Maisel of it all. I think she totally could have, she totally could have leaned into the old fashioned Red Palda voice, you know what I mean? But she doesn't. She makes it her own thing, and I respect the heck out of that.
Like, we have the intelligence of a Mrs. Maisel, but we're not doing the fast pacedness quite as much here. Because
exactly,
it would have been something she could very easily do. But we see she's a very competent reporter who does the big comparison people have had with her and the Amy Adams take on Lois is that this Lois it's a lot more useful to the plot how she uncovers the mystery.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Look, it's like I like Amy Adams, but
yeah.
And it's not her fault, but Code Geass, I'm sorry. I saw that you were sticking up for Amy Adams, but like I gotta push back on that because like Amy Adams, like again, I don't blame her. She's certainly a talented actress and other things, but my God, was she underused in the Snyder movies? Like she was literally just there for plot and to give Superman a love interest. I mean, I'm sorry.
Look, I'm with you. I love her performance.
Oh, also, really quick, just because we failed to mention it, and we'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up. How great was that Peacemaker cameo?
Oh, it was so great. I laughed so hard when he popped up.
Totally. All right, I'm sorry. I'd be remiss if we passed that up. All right.
Anyway, yeah. So look, Amy Adams, I think, is a great Lois, but ultimately, as the things went after Man of Steel, really went downhill for her, because her whole thing was like she's the only tie to humanity that he has. It was such a dumb idea. Anyway, but the point being, though, even with what we had with her in Man of Steel, she's connecting the dots, so at least she's doing some reporting. But here, though, this Lois, actually, she's very helpful in uncovering what Lex is doing and helping Superman at the end of the day. And, also being there for him when he's when he's beaten up and takes him to the Kent farm and everything. We have her fly the T-ship. She does a lot more useful things for our story here.
Sure.
So they have this really nice tender...
I think her being able to fly the ship is a little bit of a buy. I mean, it's like, honestly... I hate to say this because I really do like Mr. Terrific as a character, but like the couple of plot points I do have that I can nitpick are just stuff where Mr. Terrific kind of hand waves it, like the whole like, I'm sorry, Clark, but there's nothing we can do to prove that this wasn't doctored. It's just definitively not doctored footage. And then and then also with the whole all he has to say is like, oh, it's very intuitive. Like you'll pick it up. It's like, I'm sorry, it's not that easy. It doesn't work like that.
I'm with you. I call BS on.
We don't care, but like, especially on a rewatch, it kind of bugged me a little, Dragon. I'm not gonna lie.
I agree with you. Yes, the whole intuitive thing. Come on, there's no way that's intuitive, man. You're
smart. Exactly. Yeah.
But it was a desperate situation, though. I will say this though. I do call. I have a gripe with the movie in that. As much as I love what Lois and everything does with her and the daily the cast. By the way, the Daily Planet cast very well.
I honestly think all of them, like even the most minor characters, are like straight out of the comics.
Steve Lombard, right on the money. That's exactly how Steve Lombard, like roasting Clark, being kind of like he has no idea that
absolutely. I want to see more of him in the sequel, honestly. And I love how he is the most emotional out of fucking anybody. Like when the stuff in the third act is happening, like he's desperate, like his macho, like again, and that's what James Gunn just does so well is he'll, like he obviously thrives with the main characters, but even characters that only have like a couple moments to shine, they really do shine.
Yeah. I will say this. I love everything we do with the Daily Planet crew. However, I really don't think they needed to be in the ship to do their scene at the end. It doesn't feel like we need to put them in the T-ship to like.
That was a little bit of a buy. I feel you. Because literally all the climax, they could have just done that whole climax like at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just
Yeah.
felt like we needed to put him somewhere because the planet might be getting ripped in half. But aside from that, it just feels
Which
like
is legit. That's a legit concern.
no, it is. But it's like everyone else is like running on foot. I mean, yeah, put him in the ship's a good idea, but it's like really like we're gonna post the story while we're
honestly,
flying.
I honestly think it'd be cool if there was like an urgency of like they gotta post the story, but there's all this shit happening outside. It's like, do they stay in the building? I think that would have been cool.
Well, that's the thing. It feels like we really took our time when we were in the ship. Like like Perry White saying, "Yep, it looks good. Post it, kids." It's like, okay,
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little awkward.
It's like it's like we're just keep passing it around. Is it good? Is it good? Yes, post it. It's an emergency situation.
Right.
Which, by the way, the actor we had playing Perry White, a good actor, also was in Thunderbolts. By the way, we had Wendell Pierce.
Okay.
I recognize from some other stuff, like he was in the Odd Couple remake that they did, the TV show with Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon. Love Thomas Lennon. Anyway, I will say this. He had a really good. I read somewhere he had a really good backstory. That's like kind of like it's not really explicitly said in the movie. It's like one of those like character backstory things. The idea that Lex slept with his wife.
Oh, I like that.
And that's one of the reasons he really wants to. Really wants to get Lex. But I gotta admit, throughout the movie, I don't know if you had this. I understand we want to be faithful to cigar chomping Perry White, and that's great. I got to admit, in the day and age we live in now, it just feels like he is holding it in his mouth for no reason. Like, he's not smoking it; it's just there. I'm not saying like I don't want the actor to smoke if he doesn't smoke. I get that, but it feels like use it as a prop. Could he move it around? Just like holding his belly. He's in the tea ship. Everything's coming down around him. Perry, this is not the time for the cigar.
Yeah. Kogi, yes, I'm with you. Perry White, I think this is a better Perry White than, God bless Lawrence Fishburne. Again, that wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault, but this is a better Perry White than Lawrence Fishburne, I think.
Admittedly, I will give you this. All we really had Perry White do was, say, Kent cover sports and Lois take the chopper. It's pretty much all he did.
Exactly. So it's again, we love Lawrence Fishburne, but, he just did not have a lot to work with.
He was a lot better than Man of Steel.
Yeah, but even still, I don't think he.
No, I mean Lawrence Fishburne in comparison to BVS. I just
Well, yeah, sure.
Fair point. Okay. Let's see. Oh boy, should we? There's a lot to cover here. All right. I guess we should. Well, Sorry, so I'm trying to think of what we should do next.
You're good.
Okay.
I think maybe we should go into the pocket dimension stuff.
I mean, should we talk about our bad guys because they factor in a little bit, or do we want to not cover the pocket dimension until the third act fight? I mean, do we not want to cover
literally the entire second act is pretty much all in the pocket dimension.
Yeah, I didn't mean the pocket dimension. The bad. Do you want to save the bad guys for the third act, or do you want to?
What do you mean the bad guys?
Well, I mean the Ultraman. I haven't talked about Ultraman at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think we should just save him for the.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, we'll save that stuff at the pocket dimension. Yes. Okay.
So I really like how it's set up. When we first see it, we don't even really know what it is. We kind of have to put the pieces together on it. I assumed it was some sort of alternate dimension type of thing. But I like that we don't really know what Lex's plan for it is right off the bat yet. You know
what the coolest thing about this pocket dimension thing is?
Yeah,
set it up in Peacemaker.
That's true. They totally did. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
Yep. So we kind of covered here the idea that was that's literally just a room. So that's why it's a lot safer than this. This is a whole it's not just a dimension. It's a whole. But I'm convinced Peacemaker Season 2 is going to get into. I think more than a pocket dimension, it's like a bridge to a different Earth. I think that's why it's safer than this. That's my theory, but we'll see how Peacemaker Season 2 deals with that. Regardless, the pocket dimension thing, the fact that it contributed to basically Lex had to. The ego or the literal God complex on Lex. Yeah, he created a Big Bang using a literal super collider to create a Big Bang in his own universe to serve his needs, which are so petty. And the fact that he has this whole a giant, almost like a collector's case of prison cells for.
Right.
For all the people who have just said a nasty word or have been Superman's pals or just everything, because he's put them all in these cells, and it's just the pettiest thing.
Ex-girlfriends.
Yep. Oh, it's just It's amazing, and it's very silver. It's the pocket dimension thing is a very Grant Morrison and or just classic Silver Age idea that we've modernized. Like the idea of having a pocket dimension and actually making it a plot point and a place for Superman. Which I felt so bad for Superman, by the way, because again he does the right thing so he can save the dog, and he ends up like he voluntarily surrenders himself, and he ends up getting like arrested very violently and just like taken to this black site. It's like we're kicking Superman while he's down. It's like we're spitting on the American flag. I feel bad for him,
Let's see. John Kelling says the pocket dimension is for all intents and purposes an underdeveloped Bizarro world, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yes and no.
I don't really think it's meant to be all that developed, though. That's the thing. For me, the way I read it, it's like it's very clearly meant to be like, okay, like yeah, this is a fucked up thing that Lex is doing, and like I said, it's like I don't think Lex even really cares about the ramifications of it or what.
No, it doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Well, look, John Kelly, we get to assume when we talk about the big twist, but I really think this is the bridge to getting to the bizarre world. I don't think we've really, I don't think we're really there yet. So underdeveloped, maybe, but I think maybe underdeveloped. Hopefully for good reason.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, so point being, we put Superman with Metamorpho, the one played by a Barry alumni, played by Anthony Garrigan.
And Code Geass, we covered all of Gotham back in the day. I don't think you were around for that, but we did cover all of Gotham, and we agree we are big Kerrigan fans on this channel.
Yep, of course, Victor Zsasz and NoHo Hank.
Yeah, it's funny because like we fell in love with him for Zsasz, but I think NoHo Hank is kind of like that really like proved his skills as an actor, I think.
Which I think really comes through, and again, the fact that we don't linger on Metamorpho. Again, it's in the deep background of like certain. Like,
well, again, Metamorpho is almost kind of like James Gunn's like secondary. Like if Mr. Terrific is his like primary pet project in this movie, like Metamorpho is definitely like his secondary pet project, because it's like we know who Green Lantern is, we know who Hawkgirl is. Hawkgirl was in was in Justice League. But like these two characters, like James Gunn just clearly had a lot of fun with.
And it's so sad that this guy. The idea is this guy suffered like a tragedy of like his potential future father-in-law just detested him so much and like turned him into this. And Lex saw the potential in what this guy could do. He saw his power set, and he imprisoned him purely to get revenge on Superman. That's the only reason he kidnapped this poor guy right after his origin story, presumably. He's put him there only. This is something interesting with this world. So again, we went through. We had another Barry alumni, by the way, is like one of the government guys that Rick Flag was talking to. Remember, he was Albert.
Oh yeah, no, totally. You know what, Drag? I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that guy did seem really familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. Yeah, oh, yeah. Thank you.
It was Albert from Barry, so he was like
right. Oh my god. Oh. Drag, that is very much like okay, yeah, because it was on the tip of my tongue. Thank you. That was very much that's a relief for you to say that.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to figure out where I knew him from.
So between that scene and kind of here, we basically established that kryptonite does exist, but it is very scarce. And so Luthor's solution, that was Metamorpho, who can synthesize elements. He can basically synthesize an endless supply of kryptonite, which would, of course, be very detrimental and give Superman kryptonite poisoning, which is not good. And again, I love the humanity of Metamorpho, though, where he does this because his son's being threatened across the hall from there. Superman's trying to talk him into it, and then, of course, it takes the death of our most likely falafel vendor to.
John Kelly confirmed it was a falafel vendor.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
Yeah,
falafel. Yeah. Lex, he plays Russian roulette with the falafel. But this to me was so messed up, and it was so in all the right ways that Lex. Good God, that Lex would basically he knows he can't. Well, I mean, technically he could kill Superman here, but some people point out why doesn't he just kill Superman here? Because he's basically off the grid. They'll never see him again. He's kind of gotten the okay to do this. But that's the thing. I guess there's like a question of any government oversight here for why he officially can't kill Superman. The point being to torture Superman and just make his life as miserable.
I honestly think he just enjoys torturing Superman.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that's probably really what it is. He just wants to make himself, wants to kill all his loved ones. Like eventually, he's trying to find out where Mom and Pa Kent are. That's what he's trying to do now. Who raised you?
Which is scary. And I think we're smart to, like, we don't really need to address mom and pop cans until the third act,
Yeah.
because, like, they only pop up briefly before that. But yeah.
And if memory serves, you saw the movie twice, so you tell me. When the falafel guy's begging for his life, isn't that him like saying, "Superman, don't worry about me," or is he saying he has?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he's saying. Yeah, for sure.
I can't remember if he's saying he has kids or he doesn't have kids, but it's this.
No, I think what he was saying is specifically he didn't have family.
Yeah, still that was just, oh my god, it was such a wonderful thing. He's just like, look, I don't know. Just give me food one time. Don't do this. And then he's just like the second bullet of Russian, which you never ever see. It's always like the third bullet or something.
Right. Okay, so just Nicholas goddamn Holt again, man. He is just so on fire in this scene. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't even know what else to say. It's just I feel like this is like the scene of the movie in some ways.
Oh, that went quicker than I thought. And the fact, and then he's going after, this is like a thing we had in the interview with Lois and Superman earlier on, the whole thing that Clark's been a little sloppy in the whole, and this is a call out of like early Superman stuff, by the way, even like the George Reeves Superman, that sometimes Clark would very unethically interview himself as Superman, where he'd be able to get the scoop and everything. And Lois kind of points this out, which is why they did the whole interview thing. And the fact that Lex is kind of throwing that, this kind of protects him for a bit, but it's the idea, maybe I'll go after Clark Kent. Which, of course, will keep him busy for a while.
Right.
But yeah, it's just this. It's kind of shocking, and then seeing that's what reaches Metamorpho, who is just he's so kind of saddened by what he's been a part of.
Kerrigan plays that moment like so well. I love how Kerrigan plays Metamorpho in general. Like he only has like what maybe 15 minutes of screen time, and that almost feels like it's pushing it.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, it's
but like he plays every single fucking moment like for everything it's worth as far as like his arc and his development.
Oh yeah. I will admit, Metamorpho's son, it's a weird pull, but I mean, it is from the comics. It's like doing the baby joke. Of all the CG gripes that I've had, it's like, yeah, it's not helping.
The design was not great. Great. Yeah.
Well,
Also,
traditionally, it's a deep pull to do Metamorpho's son. It just feels like, really, of all the pulls, I mean, I guess we needed like a little something to compel him to stay, but
Sure.
It's a bit much. I think Metamorpho's story enough was kind of like, maybe if Sapphire Stag was being threatened, that would have been enough for me. But I don't know. Okay, anyway, but you know what? Ultimately, I think the design of Baby Joey, it feels so trauma inspired. I think that's why James Gunn designed him the way.
Yeah. I mean, and just generally speaking, like James Gunn does love his like weird little alien thing, so it is up his alley in that regard.
They made like a life-size Joey figure, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So the point in this the pocket dimension, we have the escape, and we have like some really trippy visuals with the black hole, and the idea the black hole threatens to destabilize everything, and essentially is going to cause kind of a San Andreas Fault-esque kind of like earthquake which again, big Donner nod, but again through sci-fi Silver Age means. Oh, speaking of which, we forgot during the intimate Lois and Superman scene in the background.
Oh dear God, there's so much fucking shit in this movie.
I know.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I feel like that scene right there kind of like shows off James Gunn's kind of signature visual style better than almost anything else in the movie. Just like I've heard some people critiquing that moment as like, oh, Superman would never just let that play out without stepping in. But it's like, no, I disagree. I think Superman very much is like at a point where, and the dialogue in that scene very much reflects it, where it's like
he's having a bad day. His whole world's going unraveled. And you know what? The Justice Gang, they got it handled. Plus, it's magic. He doesn't do well against magic. Let him have this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And plus, again, remember, his whole thing is he doesn't take Mixie seriously anyway. So at least at first encounters, he doesn't really see him as a threat until he actually does stuff. So I do regret that we don't really get a good look at Mixie. That's my regret.
Yeah.
It was like Gunn's tease, like, oh, people are going to be shocked when they find out what that is, and then pointing out, oh my God, we actually put Mixie Spitalik in a Superman movie. We barely saw him, but he was there.
I'm not going to lie, Dragon. I did not even register that was Mixie Spitalik.
Yes. Dimensional Imp, Mixie Spitalik.
All right. That's cool.
Anyway, yeah. So let's see. So also again, Lois again convince again her chewing out the Justice Gang into helping Superman and getting Mister Terrific to go along and like pull him out of the black hole. That was a very good role for. Again, we're giving Lois a lot of really good stuff to do. So again, she was very well represented. She looks great in the part of Brie Brosnan. I love her in the role. I can't wait to see more of her in the role, frankly, because I think she just did an A1 job.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we call that the hypno glasses, which is like one of the coolest things we put in there. By the way, with the whole like guy pointing out like Clark Kent's he might actually have hypno glasses.
Sure,
It's a
yeah.
little ambiguous, but it's a good chance that he actually does. Which is like I think Morrison referenced it, but it's also like it might be like a deep pull like the '50s with Superman, where it's like.
And then I kind of like the fact that like like we are sort of playing around with the ambiguity here of like Clark Kent's a good guy, but like would he be dumb enough to actually think that that would fly? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyway, so Superman, after he's been poisoned by kryptonite and everything, we get him out there by the skin of his teeth, along with crypto and everything. We go to Kent Farm.
Uh-huh.
This is where we get a lot of the heart of the movie.
Oh yeah, big time. I love that the Kents basically have like two scenes, but I mean they are still like the heart of the movie, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. They only have really like one scene with Lois, but it kind of says all like, "This is my boy going to be okay?"
Oh
It's like,
God,
oh,
that scene just Dragon. This as soon as we get to the Kent farm, my emotions just start to go fucking haywire with this
right.
movie. All right,
God.
like because I have three moments in this movie that really get to me, and they kind of all involve the Kents to a certain extent.
Kent is awesome.
He absolutely is. He absolutely is. And then obviously, obviously the scene where he's like talking to Clark about, basically like what it means to be a man and how it says more about Clark, like what he wanted the message to mean. That scene is great.
Parents don't, parents don't tell kids who they are. They help them make fools themselves on their own.
Uh-huh.
Like
And then
that.
I'm sorry, another one of the moments that made me tear up didn't really involve the Kents, but it was when the kid raises that Superman flag basically to start the third act. That made me tear up. And then the ending made me tear up, which obviously involves the Kents.
Certainly. But yeah, and I love that Ma Kent's like the stronger of the two, saying, "Oh, he's all mush." Just calling Pa Kent all mush.
I love that terminology. Yeah.
Just great. Which again, very kind of very very truthful of kind of like farm of kind of farm couples. Ultimately, there's going to have the strong-willed kind of wife, and like really kind of run things. Anyways, felt on brand. So again, so the climax of this film is kind of a nod to the Donner film in that we have two crises that Superman has to deal with. In the Donner film, it was two missiles that were going off in the two different locations. Superman can't be in two places at once, despite how fast he is. So in this case, we have the war that's about to break out because Superman is off the table thanks to Lex and thanks to putting him in the pocket dimension and everything. And then we have the earthquake-esque, very earthquake-esque black hole, which again, big Donner nod. So again, awesome, epic reveal of Guy and the Justice Gang, saving the kid, and then kind of, dealing with the war. We are expecting again. Because of that flag, we are expecting Superman to show up, and it was such a great like, oh my god, it's like what's Superman gonna do? And this is what Gunn handled so well is that. What are the struggles of Superman? What's the downside of being a Superman? Well, you have all these responsibilities so much so you're going to have to pick and choose. And how the heck does any human person pick and choose? Like, these people are about to kill each other or like this giant supernatural threat that's going to happen. But, the Superman cares about every person.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Also, Hawkgirl taking out the dictator, very satisfying. That guy,
totally.
That guy was such a jerk, and I love it. It was so twisted. That guy was there when we shot the falafel guy and just enjoying it. He's one of that guy.
Oh, he was loving it. Yeah.
He deserved worse than what he got. Hawkgirl should have shoved that mace somewhere. I'm going to say that much.
Oh God.
She really should have. Because he was the guy saying, "Oh, I've seen how he likes the Baravian women." He was insisting that he was going to like hypnotize the harem of Baravia.
Yep.
Anyway, okay, so Superman versus Ultraman and the Engineer. This is where we probably should talk about these guys. So the Engineer, I don't know if you're aware of this. So the Engineer actually is a setup for a future DC film.
Is it?
Engineer is a member of the Authority. Authority is kind of like, it's not the boys, but it's very much kind of a, by any means necessary version of the Justice League. They're very morally flexible.
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of setting her up, which I had no idea about, honestly, because I'm very light. All I know is when they did the Justice Lords episode of Justice League the animated series, they originally wanted to do the Authority, but then they kind of wanted to do kind of like a more a version of the Authority kind of blended with what they were doing, which is where the Justice Lords come from. So the Authority was very much on their minds. Kind of like heroes that are still heroes, but they are willing to kill the bad guys. It's essentially what the Authority is, and that's kind of where she's coming from here. So the idea of tying her into Lex as the explanation for where she gets her nanite powers from.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bad. So there's going to be an Authority movie in James Gunn's like list of DC movies. So this is like a little, again, he's just setting it all up in the beginning here, kids. I was worried about her in the market, not knowing who she was. I was thinking, oh god, it's just going to be kind of like a knockoff Feora from Man of Steel. But it's like we see her; she has a bit of an arc, and knowing that she's going to go places, I think that makes it better.
I think she has a good screen presence to her. I think the effects of her technology are pretty cool. So I don't think she like stands out a lot. I certainly don't think she's like the most memorable side character of this movie by any stretch, but I think she has enough to do. I think she's solid.
I mean, she has a power set that presents a problem, and she was the one who kind of ruined Superman's life. So it's
exactly, yeah.
I love that. I love that whole Superman, the whole brains versus brawns of the climax here was so great. Where Superman's thinking smart here, where he flies up there, he's coding all these nanites, and then he dive bombs so he can basically take them out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good idea. So Ultraman. Oh boy. Okay, so given Lex's use of the pocket dimension as a teleporter, there was a big question, and a lot of the fact is his name was Ultraman. There were set photos released. We saw the U. I mean, I was trying to avoid all this. A lot of people said, "Oh, it's Ultraman." I was like, "Okay, I don't want to like jump to there." And then of course we said his name was Ultraman. A lot of people were thinking when he opened that pocket dimension, it was like he's opening the multiverse, and that's how we get like Earth 2 or 3, wherever Ultraman's from.
Uh-huh.
And that's how we got him there. Which, by the way, it's kind of weird that Ultraman looks a lot like Black Noir.
a little bit.
It's a little weird, which some people speculate might be a nod in the comic of the boys. Black Noir was, and they do this in the show, but in the comic, Black Noir was revealed to be like a clone of Homelander. So we had like powers and stuff like Homelander. So it was kind of essentially everything you see here is kind of what the boys' version of the comic version of the Black Noir was. But might be just a weird coincidence. Regardless, the moment I saw him able to unlock the fortress, I put the pieces together. Oh God, I know what they're doing here, and this is interesting if they're doing what I think they are, and that was right. Superman clone, which hopefully, because if it's not this, it just feels like a missed opportunity. My hope is that this is Bizarro Superman in the beginnings.
Yeah, no, I definitely got Bizarro too, and honestly, like I don't really know much about Ultraman as a character, so Dragon, I'm going to be dead ass honest with you. This might be embarrassing to even admit. When I first saw that, it's like, oh, it's also David Cornsweet. That means that is Bizarro. That is Bizarro that I am looking at right now. Like, I had no idea who the fuck Ultraman was.
Basically, the way things shake out, there are two schools of thought as to what it means, assuming he's not just dead from the black hole. Assuming that, which again, come on, he's probably alive. Assuming he is alive, one of two things happen. One, he ends up in a multiverse, and then he becomes like a proper version of Ultraman, which I think is the less interesting of what you're going to do there. What I really want it to be is he becomes Bizarro Superman. I really wish when we took off the mask, instead of the long hair, if he had like a messed up clone face, which would have been
I mean, that like obviously maybe in that point, like it would have been too much. Like if Gunn doesn't want to commit to this guy being Bizarro, then that's that might have been a little bit too on the nose. But
now he did have I have a theory as to why he didn't just have him look like Bizarro Superman when he took off the mask. So in Superman and Lois, the TV show, which was recent, which was also good. Now a lot of people were comparing like Cornsweet to the Tyler Hoechlin Superman because he's a really good Superman. in that show, the way they did Bizarro Superman was amazing. They built so Doomsday does show up in Superman and Lois. And they did him flawlessly by 20 times better than what Zack Snyder did. 20 times better on a TV budget, which is incredible. So what they initially did a fake out when they introduced.
I just remember with that show, I tried to watch the first few episodes. It was just too much teen drama for me.
Well, I'm with you, and that wasn't again. Honestly, I would recommend you skip past a lot of the teen dramas, get to the Superman stuff. You're gonna have a great time with it.
Okay, okay.
Regardless,
again, I have a lot of fucking superheroes. I haven't even gone to Andor season 2 yet. God, if you want to talk about me being behind, holy shit.
Okay, so this is a bit of a spoiler, but just trust me in that it's really great what they did here. In the TV show, they did a fake out where you think it's Doomsday who's shown up, and he's wearing like the head to toe covering, pretty much almost identically, only it's kind of green like it is in the comics. Head to toe covering with the goggles and everything, which essentially looks like Ultraman. And then we reveal it's not Doomsday; it's a Superman clone. It's Bizarro Superman, essentially. That's what the big twist was. And ultimately, throughout over time, he actually became Doomsday, which was a really clever take on that because Superman clone. So I love what they did there with that. So this, I suspect, he didn't want to just full on like copy the exact same thing. We take off the mask, and it's Bizarro Superman, and we threw a little bit of 90s there, which we gave. It's Superman, but it's Superman with the infamous mullet from the Death of Superman comics. That's why he has the long hair. So I suspect that's what it is. My hope is that Gunn would be smart enough that if we ever touch base with Bizarro, that he goes through the black hole, and going through the black hole and all the reality warping stuff.
That makes sense, yeah.
That would make him into Bizarro, or put him into a Bizarro world, or somehow either he just turns into Bizarro. We have the whole Bizarro world as like a multiverse that gets created in that moment. However you want to swing it. That's what I hope it is. Otherwise, it is a kind of a missed opportunity not to, because unofficially he is Bizarro Superman. Plus, here's the thing: we even set up that Lex makes a clone, which is one of the origins of Bizarro. He's an imperfect Superman clone, and we set that up here that he is he's dumb. He's doing everything.
That's why I was kind of surprised to see no one actually mentioning Brainiac. I was like, okay, this Ultraman stuff is it's beyond me as far as the comic goes, but as far as I'm concerned, that was Brainiac.
I think one of my favorite details with this retroactively is that it's Lex's joke about Superman is that he sees Superman as he says almost as dumb as you are. It's essentially everything he thinks of Superman as just being this dumb, mindless brute that is only valued for his strength. It's this parody of him with Ultraman. He's having him get coffee and give people like donuts and flip light switches. It's hysterical. It's great. Of course, we have some fun fighty fight stuff where we have like the big moment where amazing Lex Luthor moment where 1A, where he's basically giving his big monologue.
Yes.
He's giving his big monologue to Superman. As I already geeked out about the whole
that moment is so cathartic because it's the closest that Lex Luthor is ever going to come to actually being able to physically beat up Superman.
And it's done with the editing, and it's great, and it's everything Lex wants to do, just through this character. We're kind of getting, again, assuming that is bizarre, we're getting 3 Superman characters for the price of one. Which is great.
If they wanted to, dude, if they really tried, Eisenberg could have totally nailed that moment.
Yes, could have. Didn't.
Could have, yes.
Could have. Absolutely. But still, it's just this great monologue about, yes, it is envy. It is envy. But it's the envy that inspires me to topple false idols like you, that kind of monologue, and it's perfect in every way. And then Superman's big defeat of Lex, he uses the whole brain over brawn thing, where he uses Crypto's ability to misbehave, go after the ball, boy. He takes out all the cameras, and it's awesome, and it's great, and I love it. Okay, anyway, so then of course, he goes there, he stops Lex, Mr. Terrific fixes the fact that Lex's ego is good. He will not. It's a fact. It's literally an on and off button. Lex refuses to even his own men are okay, we got to stop. This is getting crazy. We're destroying the world here.
Okay, and also a couple things with Lex that we have to bring up. One, we were kind of promising that we would that we would bring this up and we kind of forgot to. How awesome is the concept of the fucking internet troll monkeys?
Oh yes, yes, yes. So when we go in the pocket dimension, all the troll monkeys, all the monkey bots.
Dragon, it's kind of one of those things. I've heard the critique of like, well, you wouldn't need monkeys to write internet troll comments. Like people do that for you. It's like, yeah, I agree, but it's such a fucking fun concept, dude. It's such a fun concept.
But it's also kind of like the 12 Monkeys nod.
Oh, totally.
It's a bit of 12 Monkeys, but also you know what? And you're wondering why monkeys? I mean, Superman historically does have a whole Titano thing where there's basically I forget if Lex. Sometimes Lex is involved in the Titano incident. Essentially, Lex created a King Kong of a monkey.
Oh
that
boy.
basically, I think it was powered by kryptonite. It may or may not have been. The point being, we had a giant monkey that like called wreaked havoc, and Lex most often footed the bill on it. So there's a precedent. It's not completely coming out of nowhere why monkeys. All I can tell you is it reminds me of that line from Toy Story. We need more monkeys.
I don't know, Kogias. I don't really feel like sitting here and debating the Snyderverse, but like I don't necessarily think the problem with Luthor in like Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor was that he was silly. I just think the problem was that this Luthor, yes, he's silly. There are certain elements about him that are very silly. I'm about to cite another thing about him that's very silly, very comic book. But he's also intimidating. He's also has one moment in this movie that's genuinely fucking chilling. Like, and he's just like he's got the ego down. Like I think the problem with Eisenberg was that Eisenberg was basically like all silly. Do you agree with that, Dragon?
I do agree with that. I think there's a lot to unpack with Eisenberg, but why it didn't work. But yeah, it's definitely like, for example, he had like on paper like the idea that he was the whole like sorry, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. Just
All right.
yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing with Lex I need to mention because I think it's one of my favorite gags is how great is it when he's throwing a tantrum and his little lackeys are like scrambling to pick up the pencils?
Okay, admittedly, that's funny. Maybe a little much. Maybe it's a little much.
I feel like it's the closest thing the movie goes to being like full blown fucking cartoon. But again, I like that. I like the fact that like I mean, Dragon, honestly, like,
you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give it a pass here because it's a little bit of Donner. It's a little bit of Donner.
Yeah,
a
totally.
A little
Like,
bit of
like you mentioned that. Like, I don't really like. Yeah, I feel like this movie is trying to be grounded in the sense of like we're looking at like what the public perception of Superman would be like and stuff. That being said, this is a fucking silly superhero universe, and it knows it, and it's self-aware about it, and and we can get away with silly shit like that. All right.
Oh boy, let's see. Okay, the point being, so Superman.
John Killing says the most evil thing Lex did in this movie was throw a pencil at Eve. Maybe second most evil. Maybe second most evil.
By the way, I love that Eve kind of helped save the day through.
I did like that was the last straw for Eve. It's like, okay, this guy's fucking throwing shit at me. That no, hell no.
It's really great that with the lack of Clark Kent, I do regret that we didn't see enough of like Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. I kind of regret that we didn't see.
I like that Jimmy Olsen does have his own subplot, that he has his own agency in. But yeah, I agree. In the sequel, I definitely want to see more Clark Kent stuff, more stuff with Clark Kent at the Daily Planet.
We got to be honest here, okay? And all the Superman, I mean, all of them, all the films, all the Superman films, at least the live action ones. We have never properly done like Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Even in the Donner one, we had like really. He has like one scene. It's a nice scene. He has one. He saves Jimmy Olsen, and there's a bit of I don't know. Jimmy gets. I guess the first Donner Superman is probably the most we get out of like Jimmy and Superman. But every other time, it's like Jimmy at the Daily Planet. Like, Jimmy barely interacts with Superman to be like given the pal status.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one thing that My Adventures with Superman excels at.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Other places, though, again, it's just such a pure, adorable friendship. It's just something we got to get more of in there. And I think this, we have like one scene with Clark. We got to do more, man. We got either with Superman or Clark. We got to put Jimmy with him. Anyway, but again, it's really nice that Jimmy was instrumental with the whole Eve Tessmacher thing. I love it. It was like a regret of like, oh god, it's like Lois, you have no idea how much you owe me right now.
Right.
And you know what? It's kind of nice that he gave like Eve doesn't really ask for much. She just wants to be companionship and just to be silly with somebody and
Uh-huh.
It's like that hug at the end was kind of like the weird sensual hug was kind of funny.
Sure.
Anyway.
All right.
So Superman makes his big plea to Lex here. Well, not his plea. Look, Lex, my humanity is my greatest strength. Essentially, is what he kind of does in a really nice monologue, saying, "Look, I'm like everybody else. All right, it's not about all the stuff I can do. I'm struggling."
And in this moment, Dragon, I'm just sitting there like I am eating the shit up at this point. I'm just like, yes, this is exactly what Superman should be. This is fucking perfect.
Yep, and like Lex is just he's calling him out. The whole year's placated me, or like the whole like not pants. It begins with a P. It's not pandering. It's not placating. It's crap. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, the point being, he's Lex is chewing Superman out, and he's about to rail into him about how small but then Crypto basically pulls a Loki smash moment. It's amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, that moment is probably like I kind of feel like I'm done with that moment, Dragon. I kind of feel like it's played out at this point.
What do you mean?
Is it satisfying? Yeah, absolutely, it's satisfying.
Lex was going to kill that dog, man. He said, "I'm going to put him down."
I get that. I'm just saying, like, it's so clearly another Loki smash moment, and I'm just saying, like, I feel like at this point, that was one of the few moments in the movie where, like, Gunn was kind of just, like, taking the cues from Marvel when he really shouldn't be, when he should be inventing his own cues. I don't know.
Okay,
it's not a big deal by any stretch, and it is satisfying to see, but it's just a little nitpick on my end.
Patronizing. That was the word I was looking for. Sorry.
Thank you.
Just remembered it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think just because Lex had it coming so much, we know Superman's not going to lift a finger to hurt him. I just felt like if anyone's going to be able to do and get away with it, would be Crypto. Yes, logically, Lex would be battered and he'd be missing limbs. If yes,
right.
But I mean, it's like Lex has to receive some sort of punishment. Just a little bit. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Played out or no, it just felt like, okay, we got to give Superman a win here. We got to let him, like Vikings, like, no, Crypto, don't stop.
Oh no, stop, come back.
Exactly. Now, he is actually telling them, and also the Superman's credit, he is actually telling them to stop, but it does feel like he wants to be like, oh no, stop, come back. It's like he's so happy he's got like a misbehaved pup in that one scene. So so then Superman and Lois, they have a kiss there. It looks really nice, very indicative of My Adventures of Superman, which is nice. He's wearing the iconic purple and everything. Superman the animated series, loving all this. So things are looking well. We go back to the fortress. We fixed up the Superman robots, and we reveal Crypto's owner.
Oh God. How do you feel about this, Dreg? Because I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't really have any sort of attachment to Supergirl. So, like, I was fine with it. I could see if you have an attachment to Supergirl as a character, it would be a little bit of an insult.
Okay, so here's what I have to say about the Supergirl thing. Okay, so the reason Supergirl is portrayed as kind of the drunk party girl, as we see her here. Now, the movie that we are getting of Supergirl.
I just love her calling Superman a bitch, though.
That I don't like, but it's just.
I don't know. That made me laugh.
I know it's what she would say in the moment, but I don't like people being mean to Superman like that, unless they're like bad guys going to come up and says, I don't know. Okay, look, regardless. So the reason we have like the drunk party girl, Supergirl, wearing that outfit, wearing that coat over her costume, by the way. So this is set up for the Supergirl movie, which is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, which I bought during I bought during Free Comic Book Day, which I haven't. Well, sorry, I was just going to simplify the Free Comic Book Day. My comic shop was having an anniversary sale, and I bought it. I bought it there. I haven't read it yet, but essentially, because again, I've been meaning to. I was waiting for it to get on sale, and I'm going to be reading it to get ready for the movie. But essentially, they're adapting that book, or at least heavily influenced by that book, especially given the outfit that she's wearing, which essentially Supergirl goes planet hopping and like going on like kind of a drunken bender, like a party, and then she ends up getting wrapped up in a misadventure with an alien girl. So that's essentially now. My assumption is that the Supergirl movie will be set during this movie, so we're going to be seeing what she did and how she got that jacket at the end of this movie.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
I'm just saying, based like putting two and two together, like she ends up wearing that coat, which basically Supergirl's friend in that book was wearing, which she wears. The point being, I'm pretty sure that's the line we're drawing there, that we're going to see what Supergirl was doing during all this, which is interesting. Which again, I got to really read that story to see how much I like this. I've always heard people say it's like Tom King's best story. Like, people love that Supergirl book, and James Gunn is putting a lot on like adapting that popular book into a movie. So there's got to be something there. So I'm hoping, like, I'm withholding judgment until I read that book or at least see that movie to really know how I feel about doing the drunk Supergirl things. We've seen Supergirl be squeaky clean before with the Supergirl TV show, and that's great. Melissa Benoist, wonderful. We kind of know it. We've seen versions of Supergirl. She's a little more hard nosed, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. This is like in the Flash movie. So I mean, it's a welcome change for, again, where obviously she's inebriated, so this isn't like the traditional Supergirl like we can kind of see, but it's James Gunn adding like kind of flaws and realism to the world where Supergirl might have a hard partying cousin who is a personality that is different. The big thing that James Gunn's driving home that Tom King kind of did as well is that Supergirl has not had the happy-go-lucky upbringing that Clark Kent had. Okay, she has a lot more his traumas there because remember, her city was bottled by Brainiac, and then she was sent. Sent to watch out for her cousin, but she was too late. She has a failed mission, like tradition what the Supergirl story is. So she's like essentially she's maybe a drunken failure. She might be betrayed as the Jessica Jones of the DC universe for all we know. Yeah. It is possible. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm withholding judgment. The idea that seeing her banter with, seeing her dynamic with Crypto makes a lot of sense. That Crypto is very much her dog, and that's why he's so ill trained.
And again, yeah, I love that. I love that reveal like contextualizes Crypto's character so much.
Yeah, Supergirl could show promise, but I understand completely if people are scared off by what.
I get it. That's definitely one of the things where it's like if you have reservations about that, I totally understand. Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's see. The big ending payoff. Just saying the character of Supergirl will probably adapt and justify herself as the film proceeds. Yeah, for sure. It's like Dragon was saying. Okay, I love the ending. Again, the ending makes me tear up. I love the fact that. Oh, and also Dragon shit. I'm glad that we actually are bringing this up before we end. I think one of my favorite sentiments in this whole goddamn movie is Clark's views on what punk rock actually is.
I knew you were. Yeah, I knew you were going to mention this.
Yeah, Dragon, as a music fan myself, I'm like, Clark is 100% on the money. That is the real fucking punk rock, and I love it.
In another life, James Gunn would have been the best DJ in history.
I mean, I think he's up there as far as like the best people to like consistently put together banger soundtracks, at least.
That's what I'm saying. He would have been like the world's best DJ.
Right.
But no, but seriously, you're right. The fact, honestly, for me, look,
I've never even heard of the band that he's referencing here, right? Like, yeah. But I just love how earnest. I love the moment where Lois is like, oh, they're so lame, and then all he can say is like, well, a lot of people really love them.
So look, here's the thing. I knew nothing. I gotta be honest. All the band names were like punk rock. I know it was like they were speaking Chinese.
Dragon, I'm much more of like a pop punk guy. I love my pop punk. I love my Green Day. I love my My Chemical Romance. But actual like real punk, well, quote unquote real punk. I'm just saying like the actual like where the genre was birthed from, the 80s stuff. I'm not really that into. Honestly, I like my songs to be a little bit longer than like 30 seconds or 90 seconds, which is why punk kind of like doesn't really appeal to me in its purest form. But I love the sensibilities of punk. Greg, have you ever heard of the movie SLC Punk?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying to you. It's all anathema, all the punk rock stuff. I have no idea what it's.
Greg, you owe it to yourself to see the movie SLC Punk. All right, that has Matthew Lillard's best fucking role. Like, Matthew Lillard is amazing in that movie. It's all about the punk rock scene in Salt Lake City against, like, conservatism and Mormonism in the 80s. It's such a good movie. Such a fucking good movie. Can't recommend it enough. You do not need to know anything about punk rock to appreciate that movie.
My point being, not knowing, the only thing I was familiar with, he said My Chemical Romance because of like a song in Watchmen. That's pretty much all I know about punk rock.
Right.
Regardless, of what I'm getting at is that, and I think Gerard Way, who of course did the Umbrella Academy comic in the show, he's in My Chemical Romance. It's the only connections I have to punk rock. Period. So with that in mind, just the idea that having the idea that Superman had went through a punk rock phase. Essentially, he likes punk rock, but he likes the pop.
Code Geass is kind of making the point, like, I don't fully buy Superman being a big fan of punk rock, but it's like, no, he would be a big fan of like cheesy radio pop punk, though.
Yeah, but it just basically what I took away from that, like through the James Gunn vein, I think what he's trying to convey with the character with that choice, because he's really going hard on you. We know James Gunn's a music fan. It really feels to me, just being like an outsider knows nothing about the punk rock thing. It really feels to me it's the idea that it's playing to the Boy Scout angle with Superman, which we do hilarious in the post-credit scene, by the way. Just the idea that Superman, it's the idea that, again, this is like he wants to be, it's the idea Superman as a character is always trying to be, he's always in Batman's shadow because he's the edgy, cooler kind of gothy looking one. That's essentially. He's always in Batman's shadow with that in the pop culture lexicon. It's always like, Superman was there first and he raised generations, but then Batman just kind of stole his thunder and went from there. And it's always been trying to catch up and trying to compete with Batman's popularity. And it's the fact that Superman does have that in him. He does have there is that appeal, and he's always like kind of that desire to be kind of like kind of with the times, even though it's because the idea of truth, justice, the American way is like an old-fashioned ideal, and he's always trying to make that cool, going to the whole like Superman versus Public Enemies or the whole comic. What's so funny about truth, justice, the American way? That's kind of what that's all about. It's about there's something being cool about the cheesy punk rock, like the new punk rock is the punk rock thing, That's kind of what the message of the movie is that there's something, there is something to be said for, for the old fashioned ideals, or like, like something that's people like turn their nose, oh man, that's not, like there's something disingenuous about that's not the real stuff. Maybe the lighthearted stuff's what we need more of.
So on that note, I just adore the ending. I adore the message of it, all the imagery. The fact that the last shot is like Jonathan Kent holding a young Clark Kent up as if he's flying. I got so emotional, Dragon. I've seen this movie twice and I teared up both times.
It's funny. It's kind of reminiscent of like Sans the Man, Super, the James Gunn movie Super that he did, which ends a little similarly. Which again, it's the emotional James Gunn end that is kind of patented for his movies. Set the music, and we have kind of like a character reflecting on kind of like the like what's going on in life with his loved ones and everything, which is basically how Super ends. And it's just this really I melted just the idea that we're gonna put on the footage of his parents. It soothes him, but then just seeing, I knew, please do what I think they're gonna do. And so yes, we saw the Kents on there. It's like that is utterly perfect and pays off the beginning of the movie. He's wounded, he's getting patched up, and he's in his good place now. We're not doing the sunlight as like an emergency. We got to put him up like an ant under a magnifying glass. It's just like, it's kind of like let the sunshine in kind of a moment.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, yes, Superman's in a good place. He's kind of found some balance. He's kind of electing the arc of it here. And it's so weird. There are parallels between this and The Batman, where The Batman is kind of like the arc of like going from, the urban legend to hero, the vigilante to hero thing. And here we're kind of going from, basically we went from like, the Kryptonian side of, the Kal-El side of him to the Clark Kent side of him by the end. It's great. Okay. Of course, we have our post-credit stuff. We have like the adorable shot with him holding Krypto, which is nice. Which, by the way, the marketing ticked me off with our image here. There's this great money shot they've been advertising all the IMAX stuff of Superman and Krypto looking out the planet, which is from All-Star Superman. Which is great, but my nitpick is that in all the marketing, they got it wrong. The dog is missing the cape. Why is the dog? And that's why we didn't go with it here, because it ticks me off. Like, why? It's like the defining trait of the dog. It's a dog with a cape. Why is the cape missing?
I missed that. That's funny.
in all the markets, like it's gone, it's missing. Why? Anyway, so the true post credits of the movie. This is an adorable Superman moment. I loved it. It's silly. We don't need it at all, but it's cute.
It's kind of I prefer these sort of post credit scenes any day of the week to the whole like, oh look, it's fucking like it's some random actor who may or may not be back playing a comic book character that unless you're a big comic nerd, you've probably never even heard of.
I think a lot of people were expecting, like, because Lex Luthor, he gets arrested. He gets exposed. By the way, Lex Luthor did get arrested and exposed for all the horrible stuff he was doing, which was it was a very cathartic moment for all the crap that he put Superman through. The shoe was on the other foot. He was now suffering. Lex Luthor, traitor.
I love that arc. I love how it's just a really good switch. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a lot of people, again, he's going to the Belle Reve, which is where, we recruit, the Suicide Squad and everything. So Amanda Waller might be getting Lex out of Dodge there.
I'm glad. I honestly think that's kind of just like implied that the next thing we're going to do with Lex is going to involve Amanda Waller. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, it's refreshing that we didn't do that. The other thing, honestly, look, as much as I do, the end credit thing we have is adorable. I will say, though, I would have geeked out if we showed the Ultraman becoming Bizarro Superman in the post credit. I would have really.
Yeah, that would have been the actual cool like fan moment. Yeah. But I think this is like, for me, Drag, what I love so much about this moment, it's super relatable to me. Like, that I am always like, I am constantly fucking second guessing my social interactions.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I love it. Like, I would have the exact same sort of response. Like, like I'm a super earnest person, but man, I will get really hard on myself if I feel like I have hurt somebody's feelings. Yep. And I just love like
poor Mr. Terrific
sometimes.
I just love that Terrific's like, he said, like, what? No, I don't really do like social interaction kind of thing. It was just, what? Just I tried doing something nice. And Superman's getting on my case. He walks the other way. He's like, what? It's not even enough for you. I put it all back together, and just like, oh man, I'm just so why do I have to be such a jerk?
And I just love that that's the last note we end out on, because for me it just like it totally like it's such a great like punctuation on like the Boy Scout that Superman is in this movie, that like he is such a nice guy that like the one time he's giving constructive criticism.
Literally constructive criticism.
He is not being a jerk about it at all.
No.
But he is so empathetic that he's like, oh man, I can be a real jerk. Like, I love that as the last note for the character Dragon. I just think it's perfect.
There's something.
I walked out of the theater with like the biggest fucking dumb grin on my face after that.
As much as I would have loved the Bizarro Superman thing, I got to admit, I think the reason this maybe works better, is, it's because honestly, the movie is very self-contained. As in, like, it's the hope of building a universe. But I think James Gunn knew full well, like, the success of this thing is going
just enough world building. We established that there's other superheroes in this universe. We established LexCorp. We established characters like Rick Flag. We established that Peacemaker's still around, but we don't linger on it. We don't spend a ton of time like. There's no fucking equivalent to the Batman versus Superman scene where they're just going through the files and looking at all the characters,
Yeah, you got to remember, it's been reported, too. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that, the whole DC Universe plan did hinge on, like, the success of this movie, because if it didn't succeed, basically what you would have had is, okay, so we had Creature Commandos, like 2 seasons of that, Superman, and the second season of Peacemaker, everybody could have pulled the plug on everything else. Everything else is technically in development. Everything technically is, like, still hasn't really quite been filmed yet, but, it's like it's on the books because they're waiting to get the scripts and everything.
Sure.
So... And we know as Zaslav, he would have easily pulled that plug.
Oh God!
So it really did hinge on
like the real Lex Luthor in this situation.
Oh, without question. So it is. So really, it's James Gunn full well knew. Okay, look, I just want to do a statement on the character and like what I want to do. Hopefully people get on board for it. If they don't, at least they made a Superman film, which is more than I expected when I just took on the Suicide Squad movie. So Yeah, it's it's probably the right choices for the sake of like a standalone versus like Bizarro says sequel you may or may not ever see.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Dragon, I think I've pretty much said my piece on it. Like I said, like when I first came on, I think this movie is I really hope that it's a shift in the superhero genre, specifically from the stuff that's more fucking optimistic and less cynical. Like, that's what I really want from superhero movies. That's what I think the world needs right now. And I just think that this is everything that that Zack Snyder's Superman could never be. With all due respect to Code Geass, I know you're a Snyder fan. Final thoughts from you, Dragon?
Final thoughts. Again, look, when I walked out of the theater from this movie, and I mean, still even just getting ready for this, I did agonize over getting in the right headspace to do for the note taking process on this, because clearly I did like that. Clearly, I loved the movie. Had a lot of fun with it. I think it's everything that James, it's definitely it's James Gunn's take on Superman. But with that in mind, it's kind of new in the pit of my stomach that and that Jeremy Johnson confirmed it, because I didn't look into it or anything before. It's like, I don't know how the public's going to react to this movie. I really don't, because again, because it's so radically different than what they're used to with the character. And again, we're going for kind of the new stuff with Superman, which again the general public's not really privy to, because not everyone's watching My Adventures with Superman. They should be, but they're not. And got that and All-Star Superman. We're pulling from the greats here, but we're going kind of modern with it, and it just feels like this is the direction to go in. I mean, honestly, I've been saying like this along with like Superman American Alien, the Max Landis story. Like, these are the ways to reinvent Superman for kind of like the for the next generation, like that. And My Adventures were like, this is how you do, which is kind of what we're doing in line. Where you're kind of going a little younger with Superman. We're kind of seeing more human, just kind of the self-discovery phase of that character, and applying that to the beginnings of a DC universe with kind of the James Gunn flair of like how he feels about these characters and kind of the heart that he can apply to them. And that was always like, the DC universe is kind of like their big difference from Marvel, is that it was always like the relatability factors. The DC characters give you something to inspire and marvel at. Pun, sorry. But it gave you something to. It was always like we're inspiring to the monoliths, where the Marvel characters is where we live. We live in New York, essentially. Where we can relate to these characters very directly, and just kind of bringing that into the DC universe, and just kind of grounding it in that way. It's an interesting prospect, and I think Gunn has the right mindset for what he's doing there, and is the very least applying that to Superman, who historically has been that character. Was always the big turnoff with Superman as a character. People was like, he can blow out a star like a star like a birthday candle. It's what Denny O'Neil said famously. It's an uphill battle. It's a hard thing to do. I think he succeeded. I think he succeeded, and he made a lot of Superman fans. Hopefully, again, maybe a little heavy on the CG, but again, that's because it's something we're doing stuff Superman we haven't seen before, and it just feels like I'm trying to. Like Superman himself in the movie, I'm trying to table all the social media of the world and kind of get it out and just kind of focus on the positive and focus on the optimism like I always do. I'm trying, man, but it's just like the world is everyone's got an opinion and have all these people rooting for this movie's failure. All I know is I liked it. I enjoyed it. I like that we have different flavors of Superman, and I don't think James Gunn could have made it I don't think it could have made it any better. Like, this is James Gunn as a movie. It's going to get people going to like it, or they're not. And I think it's a good omen for things to come. At the very least, it's him like putting it on the table. This is the kind of DC I want to do. You got this. You got Peacemaker. You got Creature Commandos. Gods. We're doing monsters. If again with the gods and monsters, we're showing the humanity of our gods, and with the monsters, we're showing the humanity in the monsters. It just feels like that's what he's doing here. So It's phase one seems to be going off pretty solidly.
All right. Okay, really quick, Kogia says, if Lex has to come back, I want him to run a Jolly Rancher shop. God. Let's see. John Kelling says, I think I want Lex to stay in prison and serve as a Hannibal Lecter figure to Superman. That would be cool. I could see that. Although, I don't know, though. I think this version of Lex Luthor is so fucking childish and petty. I don't think he would entertain Superman in that way.
Well, think about this. He would mock him, and he would he would insult him, and almost like a Riddler Batman thing. He would insult him, and that would be how he gets clues or like gets an insight, or he would have to talk to Lex for some reason. Or maybe, better yet, go for a deeper All-Star Superman pull. Clark Kent interviewing Lex Luthor in prison.
Ooh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
There you go.
I do like the fact that like for all of Lex's bravado and his like Machiavellian scheming, he never does find out that Clark Kent is Superman within the course of this movie. I do like that we hold off on that.
And again, blinded by hatred. If he wasn't so hate-filled, maybe he put two and two together.
Uh-huh. It was probably just the glasses.
Oh, that too.
All right, so just to shout out everyone in the comments here. Again, this has been a very robust comment section. We had a lot to go over. I apologize if you had a comment that didn't get read, that you wanted to get read. Just a lot. If we would have read every comment, we would have been here for like twice the amount of time. But big shout out to Eli, aka Little Blue, Kogias, Keeper Colby, John Kelling, the Devourer of Worlds, AJ 2003 popped up a couple times. I'm sorry that I missed your comments there, but yeah, he popped up a couple times. So nice to see you. And let's see, I think that's it, Dragon. I didn't miss anyone, did I?
Let's see. Of course, we got John Kelly, we got yes. Let me see. We're almost there. Let's scroll there.
Yeah.
Nothing's updated. We're gonna have to fly blind on this. Hopefully, we got everybody.
Okay. All right, I want to end on this because I think John Kelling really sums up like what's so good about this movie in this quote, and we'll just kind of leave on that. I don't want to do any like kind of post credits like gag or anything on this movie. I just think this podcast should end on this note. John Kelling, the Devourer of Worlds, says, "We don't deserve to have Superman in real life because we owe it to ourselves to be our own Superman. Be the good you want to see in the world. Be kind. Be beautiful, because that's the real punk rock." Hell yeah. Well said, John Kelling. All right. Have a good night, everyone.